Yes. Yes, do, yes. I can see, I haven't said, yes, I was going to say, I was thinking, I can see it. Well, that's fine. Yes, do, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, the chairman.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. If you're able, please remain standing while Father Bott leads us in prayer.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Heavenly Father, we ask your blessing on our meeting today, that we might have true and deep concern for all those who live in this county, all who work for this council, that we may work for the good of all and the enhancement of our environment and our communities. We ask this in the name of Christ our Lord.
Amen. Amen.
Heavenly Father, we pray that you will make us always mindful of the needs of others. We hold before you particularly today those who live in Florida and are affected by the storm which has devastated parts of that part of our world. For those whom we know who live there, may our thoughts be with them and for all people, that through the generosity of all, they may have hope, comfort and relief at this time of great trial and tribulation. We ask this in the name of Christ the Lord. Amen. We pray for those who live and work in this county, that they may benefit from the actions of this council, that they may find peace, stability and safety in their lives and their communities. We ask this in the name of Christ, our Lord and Saviour. Amen. Amen. I invite you to join with me in the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Always a pleasure. Please take your seats. Again, good morning and welcome to our meeting. Item 1 on the agenda is apologies. Are there any apologies for absence?
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, councillors. Yes, we have 4 apologies. Councillor Pert, Councillor Sylvester Hall, Councillor Sutherland and Councillor Waring.
Are there any further apologies? No, moving on. Item 2, which is declarations of interest. Does any member wish to declare an interest? No, we have no declarations of interest. Confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting. I move that the minutes of the council meeting held on the 18th of July 2024 be signed as a true record. Is that agreed? Thank you. I'm signing right there. Item 4, the Chairman's correspondence. You'll be pleased to know I have no correspondence. So moving quickly on to item 5, which is the statement of the Leader of the Council. Councillor Alan White, will you move consideration of the statement, please?
Good morning, Chairman. I move consideration of the Leader's statement.
Item 1 on the Leader's statement, which is the Staffordshire means back to business. I'm genuinely not sure if this system's working. It is. Councillor David Smith.
It may come as a surprise to some members that in my division I have a very significant vineyard that produces the wines and operates very effectively, providing significant volumes of wines for the community. But I would point out, Chairman, that this year, where we're looking at so many things that are being good news within the council, that we do have some problem areas. Buzzard Valley, because of the weather conditions, have been unable to harvest their grapes this year. And I think that looks at the stresses that the agriculture industry is in. This is one of our biggest industries within the county, and it's struggling and going through a very difficult time. I understand from my colleague here that this year yields are down 50%. If we look at the implications of that as far as food production is concerned, then I think that's a very serious situation. And I think that success on one hand has to be tempered by the problems that we see in other areas. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Gillian Pardesi.
Page 24. Can I ask, please, as far as the Shire Hall goes, what the plans are for the front of the building, the former art gallery, please?
Councillor Julia Jessel.
To make mention of the initiative that this authority started of We Are Staffordshire to promote Staffordshire both for its economy, for its beauty, and in many respects it's an initiative that I don't think we shout about enough. I had the pleasure last night of attending as an ambassador at the event at Lichfield Cathedral. And I can say to everybody here with a certain amount of personal pride that I actually managed to walk up to the top of the spire and get back down again. It was fantastic. It was a well-run event. And there were representatives there from a range of organisations, from a lady who is a virtual assistant, to people who are in lighting manufacturing, food manufacturing, marketing. And it was wonderful to see these local companies, these local representatives across Staffordshire networking, realising that they could benefit each other, agreeing to meet up next week. This is the kind of work that Staffordshire County Council does to support and develop the local economy, both large and small organisations. And I thought it was an opportune time this morning to say thank you to Councillor White, who has been a champion of this, but also to raise the profile. Louise Shaw, who is the manager of this organisation, was brilliant yesterday. Every event I've been to, she's been there in the middle of it, helping to network, helping to get people together, helping businesses to recognise the benefit of networking and the support that we as an authority can give growing and developing businesses. So I wish to congratulate Louise, but also to thank Councillor White for championing this cause. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Councillor Kath Perry.
Point on this item, Chairman. It's got recommended for delivery of these projects. I'm disappointed to see that the M54-M6 link road is being delayed again, and I just wanted to ask for some reassurance that it's still there on the table, please, as it's desperately needed around my division. Thank you.
Councillor Anne Edgler.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Chairman. Whilst I applaud the business centre being full at the Shire Hall, I'm absolutely appalled that the Cabinet at Stafford Borough Council could not find somewhere for the Stafford market traders to carry on trading until a permanent position could be found for them. The Shire Hall would have been ideal, and I understand negotiations did take place, but the Stafford Borough Council turned it down. Stafford Borough Council have put these people out of business just before Christmas. I think it's a sad state of affairs, and Stafford Borough Cabinet should have found a solution to this issue. We are chartered as a market town, and it should stay that way. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Syed Hussain.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I must pay my tribute to the Cabinet member and the team for their some good news stories are obviously in there. Some investment is always welcome from our side and the residents. The residents should be safe, and safeguarding is always our concern. Mr. Chairman, even in 2024, nowadays we hear so many stories. Residents are got paying only £2.50 an hour with a cash in hand job in many, many small businesses. But large majority of the small businesses, they are doing fantastic job creating their jobs and growing our economy. So I would urge the cabinet member to whether he is willing to work with me to find out and sort this out, these modern day slavery issues. £2.50 an hour in today's age with a cash in hand job is not an answer, and it's not a safe place for working as well. There are many, many pockets still in there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Jill Hood.
Thank you, Chairman. Oh, sorry, Chairman. I'd like to bring up Stafford Market traders, which the Cabinet of Stafford Borough Council have been negotiating with for almost 2 years. Yes, the decision taken did seem a little hurried, but I think possibly if we didn't read every comment that's on social media, i.e. Facebook, then, and actually went and spoke to the traders and spoke to the Cabinet, then I think we would see an entirely different viewpoint. Thank you, Chairman.
One more speaker before I bring in the Cabinet member. Councillor Mark Winnington.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just following on really from what Councillor Smith just said about farming and the absolute dismay that farmers are going through at the moment with yet another wet season. This just a quick example to everyone. You wouldn't sort of, because you're not out there, you don't see what happens. In the dark, they were maize harvesting in one field. They got 6 tractors, 1 harvester. The one guy said he was really disappointed because he got stuck and someone pulled him out and he went off. And when he came back, the other 5 harvesters 5 trailers were stuck as well. And then there's the mud on the road. And really, it's a plea from me, twofold. First of all, if there's mud on the road, it shouldn't be on the road, but please sort of go with the farmers. They are trying to clean it up. It's just an awful season we're in. And secondly, if you know a farmer, just ring him up and say, how are you feeling, mate? Because there's a lot of upset people, that's probably the best way of putting it, but it does take a toll on your mental health when you're up to your eyeballs in mud and stuck, and it all seems hopeless. Thank you.
Councillor Philip White.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Morning, everybody. So just dealing with one or two of the points that people have mentioned. Firstly, regarding the Shire Hall, it's fantastic news that the business centre in the Shire Hall is now full. It's a massive proof of concept for us in terms of that demand being here in Stafford, and good that we've been able to meet that. And we will think about what more we can do to meet further demand here in the county town. Regarding the front of the building, that is very much on our minds. As you might have gathered from the discussion today, we have been holding back a little bit because we did want to give the Borough Council the opportunity to use the space to relocate the indoor market traders if they had wished to do so. That's a matter for the Borough Council. I'm not going to comment on it here. The one other thing I will say about Stafford, though, is that it would be really good if we could get a master plan up and running between the borough and the county councils for the further development of the town, so that these sort of activities can be planned between the two councils. And we are talking to the Borough Council about that, and I shall keep my fingers crossed. Also mentioned in the statement is the great collaborative work that we're doing with Newcastle and Lyme Borough Council regarding the new business units that we're constructing in Nutton. So a £1.14 million investment there with match funding coming in from the two councils. Workshop units there rather than offices, again, meeting a need that the market isn't meeting. Really good use of taxpayers' money, and the sort of thing this council does really well. Regarding the weather conditions that we've seen and the effect that that's had on productive land-based economy, we are really concerned about that. It's something that government needs to get a grip of, in my opinion. I don't think they really have. So we'll look for perhaps some announcements in the budget at the end of the month to provide some more help for farmers and for growers of other things as well. Which leads me on to the roads and Councillor Perry's question regarding the M54. Unfortunately, that's another decision that the government hasn't made. So that link road is much needed, and it's one of a number of major roads projects that are mentioned here that we need government to push the button on. In addition to that, and particularly after the wettest winter in 130 years, the general condition of our roads, which we all use and our businesses use to get on with doing what they do, also need that investment. So please, government, let's have something to look after our farmers and growers. Let's have something to look after those major road junctions that we know need building. And let's have something to look after all the other roads as well. So, Rachel Reeves, hope you're listening.
Councillor Alan White.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to pick up and emphasise a couple of points that Councillor White has made. First of all, agriculture. You look around this chamber, you can see the 4 pillars of our economy from when this building was constructed. And in this one here is agriculture. It's the only one that's really remaining of the others. It is a vital component of what we do here in Staffordshire. It is a rural county, and our farmers do a great deal of work. There's not as many people employed on the land these days as used to be the case, but without the farmers, we're not going to be able to eat. So I think Councillor David Smith's point, Councillor Winnington's point, and I'm sure Councillor Atkins and Councillor Heath would make the same points. In fact, Councillor Heath makes those points relentlessly to me over the past 15 years, is that land and agriculture is a vital component of what we do here in Staffordshire. And we should be emphasising that and indeed working hard to do something about it. I wanted to also point out about the work that Councillor Jessel raised about We Are Staffordshire. Thank you for the tribute you made to the team of We Are Staffordshire. It's been a tremendous success, not just here in Staffordshire. We're not talking to our own. We're also broadcasting to the world about the county of Staffordshire and everything that we are doing. We're winning awards for the communications that we're doing on this. We're getting attention in Parliament, and I do hope the new MPs in Parliament pick up on this and run with it hard, because the investment that we get in this county creates the good jobs and growth that we need here in Staffordshire. My final point is to the M54-M6 link. Kath Perry is advocating hard for that and has done for many years, I know. We are part of the Midlands Connect partnership. We have been for many years. Councillor Atkins got that started years ago. We continue to lobby hard to get picked up on this. We want to make sure that we grab the attention for what is a vital connection between the M54 and the M6. The traffic that is caused in that area, I think we've all been a victim of at some point or other in our lives, and doing something about that, giving relief to the people of that area, is absolutely what we're about. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Moving on to item 2 on the leader statement, which is the Digital Innovation Strategy for Staffordshire County Council. I was going to say I currently have no speakers, but then you all press the button. Councillor Nigel Yates.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair. Yes, just picking up on the debate which we had at the corporate scrutiny on this, and one of the things which I raised was the potential for asking all councillors about frequently asked questions, so that we can build those into the digital assistant response at on the website. And I'm just wondering whether that's been pursued and pushed forward, because having had experience of the digital assistant in the last few days, it certainly doesn't answer the frequently asked questions which my residents ask me. And the other thing, just the usual plea associated with anything to do with digital innovation. Yes, very important, must push it forward, embrace artificial intelligence where artificial intelligence works, but don't leave behind those who aren't computer literate, and making sure that they've got the access points which are the one-stop shops. I'm always absolutely amazed when I go into my town hall. There's always somebody at the front desk, there's always somebody having a query resolved. So, you know, whether that be through one-stop shops or the importance of the connect points at libraries, if we can keep that in mind. But if we can come back to FAQs, that would certainly, I'm sure, help me and help others. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no further speakers, so I'll call in the Cabinet Member, Councillor Ian Parry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. Do you like the suit? Bought it myself.
It's a very... the suit, Matalan do a fair suit these days.
Morning.
Other suit suppliers are available. Over to you, Councillor Parry.
Just to refer to this, and thanks for the comments. And it almost illustrates the reasons why this is here, that we've got a strategy in place, because we've all got ideas around this as to where we could apply technology in the future, and even now. And we've therefore got to ensure that we invest and design the future wisely, based on a framework, based on a strategy. Because what we now know, I think, is that over the next 5 years probably, and it's as short a time frame as that, there will be such significant shifts in the use and application of technology that is displacing all sorts of previous resources. That will be an extremely challenging time for organisations such as a county council as to how we do that wisely, sensitively, efficiently and cost effectively, etc. I described this opportunity in a sense as the teenager in a bedroom with lots of toys and, you know, just gathering the toys and then discarding them. What we don't want to do as a county council is to do that. We believe in wisely researching and assessing where we should apply technology. We also believe in failing fast, so if it doesn't work, we need to pull away from it. But we also want to avoid that sort of teenage bedroom analysis of we throw away too much and we're not careful. So this strategy is very much around designing a pathway that we can follow and logically follow, because otherwise there will be so many opportunities that are thrown at us that over the next 5 years people will be coming. They've not arrived at our front door just yet in the sort of size and capacity that you would expect, because I think there's still plenty of low-hanging fruit out there in the private sector that's probably more valuable to the sector, the technology sector, before they get to us. But they're coming in our direction. There's no doubt about it. We have lots of processes in an organisation like this that lends itself, it seems, to that kind of technology. Now, how do we manage that shift? How do we manage that transition? How do we not avoid that? Interestingly, Melrose, who got the Nobel Prize recently, Physics Nobel Prize, known as the godfather of AI, was actually alerting us to this. You know, the godfather of AI was saying, watch it, because this technology, over the next 5 to 10 years, is going to become so extremely powerful that it may well be brighter than us. And in my case, that doesn't take much. But that is really important, isn't it? That we need to be, as stewards, as custodians of this organisation, we need to be careful of what that means. What is Melrose telling us here that we need to take account of? We all need to take account of, and how we apply that. So what I suggest, because this has gone through Cabinet, it's gone through, we had a good discussion at scrutiny, is to all members, because this is going to be very corporate, it's going to be very much part of our future, that all members have a look at the strategy, have a look at the papers, and so we're all kind of informed about this. And I'm sure we'll be discussing and debating this many more times in the future. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Moving on to item 3 on the leading statement, which is the Children and Young People's Emotional Health and Wellbeing Service. Councillor Anne Edgeler.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Let's all remember today is World Mental Health Day. I ask you all to spare a moment as we go through our busy lives and think about all the people that are suffering from mental trauma. More importantly, our children, who probably through no fault of their own are suffering both physically and emotionally. This is why I welcome the opening of this service. Long may it continue. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Anne. Councillor Mark Sutton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Edgeler, for those comments. On the face of it, this Cabinet paper was just about the continuation and the recommissioning of a contract to provide mental well-being service for young people, children and young people. But actually, it's far more behind that. Children having a good start in life, I think we would all agree around the chamber, is really, really important. And part of this is this service that we provide together with the ICB. There's about £1 million worth of investment from the County Council into it. And it's for children and young people with low and moderate needs. And the advantage of that is a preventative thing, to try and work with those children, be it digitally, as many children like to receive information now, be that face-to-face or be that in groups. In order, so that they have that opportunity for a good start in life, but also that they don't escalate to more high-level services such as CAMS. And over the last period, 12 months, we've provided that interventions to round about 12,000 young people across Staffordshire. So very much support us going forward in renewing and recommissioning this contract. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Sutton. Moving on swiftly to item 4 on the legal statement, which is the Integrated Performance Report for Q1 2024-2025. I have no speakers. Ian Parry, do you want another opportunity to see your new suit?
Just to say that the Q2 finance report is now published. It will go to Cabinet next Wednesday as in public Cabinet. The good news is that Q2 will show a £2 million underspend. Did I just say that? £2 million underspend at Q2, which is a remarkable result, remarkable achievement. We've still got lots of challenges, and we know what those challenges are. We know where they are, and we're still working on them. They're not going to go away soon. It will take some time and effort. But I think what we can say is we can demonstrate good financial management of this council.
Councillor Alan White.
I do think it's important at this juncture just to highlight the fact that we are a well-run council. We have had to make some very, very difficult decisions over the years, but that's put us into a place where we can continue to invest in our highways and the things that are important to the residents of Staffordshire. We look around the region and we see lots of upper-tier local authorities really struggling financially, some of whom have actually had to issue a Section 114 notice, which is the declaration by a local authority that they're bust, and we've not had to do that. But we are not complacent. There is still a lot of work to do. There are still difficult decisions to be made, but I'm really pleased that we as an authority have been able to make those decisions over the years with your support as councillors. And I also appreciate the fact that some people have found differences in the services we've been providing as a result of that. We've changed things, we've done things differently, but we're still able to deliver those services. And when I think about libraries, for example, we still have all our libraries open and delivering services to our residents. This is to be applauded, but we are clear about the challenges we face. The Q2 report, which has been published, you'll see we are completely transparent about those areas where we need to work even harder than we are now, and we will do so. And you can trust us to make the right decisions to keep this local authority in good financial position. Thank you.
Moving on to item 5 on the leading statements, which is the Treasury Management Report for the year ending 31st of March 2024. Again, I have no speakers. Councillor Parry, do you want to come in on this one? Not this time. Councillor White? Okay. And we're going to have an early lunch, by the way it's going. I'm sure something will go wrong soon. Yes. Item 6 on the leading statement, which is the Green Loan Fund. Councillor Nigel Yates.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And very good to see this. Much needed, especially, with the need to move towards renewable energy and the difficulties faced by small businesses who are retrofitting renewables, which is obviously a lot more difficult than actually building them in. There's just one reference which I think is missing. I mean, the same applies to any household insulation funds and renewable energy funds and things. And that is, how do we engage with the landlords of business properties? Because an awful lot of small businesses don't actually own the premises. So whilst they might get the direct benefit, in all respects, it's the actual landlord and property owner who has got to put the changes in and the intervention. So I'm just wondering if any thoughts being put on how we can actually engage and make the finances stack up for the private landlords who actually run some of those business estates, which is probably more common than owner-occupiers. And I include in that companies who set up with the property portfolio separate to the actual revenue running the business side, and that is quite a common business model. So it's the ability to for a fund like this to reach all parts, because it is very important that we do reach all parts. Thank you.
Councillor Philip White.
Very much, Chairman. Yeah, just briefly, this is I think this is another good example of what council should do with the private sector. So this is a really good scheme that the last government came up with, targeting slightly larger businesses. There's a lot of these sort of funds that offer you small amounts of money, sort of £10,000, that sort of thing, which in business terms is relatively small, to deliver energy efficiency measures. But this provides grants at a much higher level, backed by energy efficiency assessments, so that you can work out how best to spend the money. But we discovered that talking to businesses who had the energy assessments, that they were struggling to provide the match funding that was required to take up these offers for really quite significant investments in their businesses. So we've been able to repurpose some of the money that came to us when the Stoke and Staffordshire Local Enterprise Partnership was closed, and to use that to provide interest-free loans to these businesses. It's a really good example of helping businesses get on, improve their energy efficiency, make themselves more productive, but in ways that they couldn't necessarily manage to do themselves. So a good example of us helping out business and decarbonising at the same time.
Thank you. Moving on to item 7 on the leader statement, which is the community strategy. Councillor Charlotte Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Better public transport was identified in some of the face-to-face work that was being done in the community's strategy, particularly from seldom heard groups. So given that transport is so vital to accessing, local amenities and so on, what is the County Council doing to try to improve public transport in view of the community strategy?
I have no further speakers, so I'm going to call in the Cabinet Member, Councillor Victoria Wilson, who's asked to stay seated. She's cracked a rib, apparently, so I'll have a lunch to give her lots of sympathy. So, Councillor Victoria Wilson.
I can confirm that Councillor Parry had absolutely nothing to do with it whatsoever. So we've been talking about communities in this place for several years, haven't we? So for that reason, I was really, really happy and delighted to bring this strategy forward. We reached out to people all over this county. We've managed to engage with over 2,000 people from all backgrounds in this council, and we'll continue to reach out and engage with those more seldom heard. This strategy is working towards the pillars and the priorities that we have as a county council, and it also helps to identify what really matters to the communities all around this area, and asks them really what is it that we can do to help facilitate them working for themselves and doing things autonomously. It's not a case of we're doing things to people, it's a case of we want to work with communities and understand what it is that's most important to them. And that data has come back, so we have a delivery plan in place. In terms of the local transport plan, that's something that one of my other colleagues is dealing with, but that's something that's very important to all members of this county. I know that. So we do have a local transport plan in the offing, and hopefully that will help identify what it is that local people need most, and see what the bus companies can obviously do to facilitate that. But I'm absolutely delighted to bring this to this room today. I think communities are the heart and soul of this county, and I'm so pleased that we're able to listen to them and hear them and act on what it is that they're asking us to do. Thank you.
Councillor Alan White.
Thank you, Chairman. It's a great opportunity for me to get up and address directly Councillor Atkins' point about bus services. When Councillor Williams was the portfolio holder, he submitted to government something called the Bus Service Improvement Plan, which I think, David, was about 115 million, something of that order. We didn't see a penny piece as a result of our efforts with the Bus Service Improvement Plan. So we've submitted another round for the Bus Service Improvement Plan, which is, I think, about 50 million-ish, something like that. So we're hoping that the new government, obviously Chancellor depending, can see its way to recognising the fact that a county like Staffordshire needs bus services that work for its people. Providing bus services in a rural county is extremely challenging. Not many people use them. The timings need to work for not just working people and school children, but also for the elderly. And trying to come up with an integrated transport plan that suits everybody's needs is something that is particularly challenging. I'm glad you've raised it and keep the profile of the bus services high, and I do hope that colleagues around the chamber, from whichever party, continue to lobby their MPs for the support we need from central government to make our buses work properly. I am consistently frustrated when I talk about bus services to ministers in government about this, simply because they have a very, very metropolitan-centric view of buses, which is, if you can make it like London, how come you can't do the same thing in Leek or Uttoxeter or Kinver? Because it's not like London. And if you can get away from those places and start realising what life is like in the old shires, then perhaps we get a better chance of getting a bus service improvement plan that delivers for the county of Staffordshire. So thanks for asking the question.
Moving on, members, to item 8 on the leading statement, which is Zero Waste Staffordshire County Council's journey to a circular economy. Councillor Derek Hookfield.
Can I just say, Mr. Chairman, I'm very interested in this. I've always been interested in waste and recycling, right? Because I think it's a necessity at this time to do as much as we possibly can to recycle of what we've got. And I think it would save a lot of problems, and I think near on everybody in the country would support this recommendation, right? And I'm going to ask the question, right, of the Cabinet member to explain it a bit more in detail than what I've got here in writing, right? Even though I support it, right, I think he could explain it so everybody knows exactly what it is all about. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Hookfield. These leaders' reports, Councillor Hookfield, are a mere summary. There is a link to a more detailed report on them. Councillor Ashad Asfar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to extend my congratulations to the County Council on this one for the successful launch of the Zero Waste Initiative. One of the standout features that I've come across in Burton-on-Trent is the recycling of the paint. People drop in their leftover paint and it can be reused. So based on that, obviously, it's providing back a reusable source to the community. So I'd just like to commend the dedicated efforts of all those involved in this initiative. Thank you.
Councillor Caroline Trowbridge.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Zero waste is hard to achieve when we live in a throwaway society. I'm pleased to see the Council has taken environmentally and financially sustainable approach to waste management. As the Cabinet member knows, I'm a trustee for Rehome Repurpose, just off the Newport Road in Stafford. They take in just about anything, from bottle tops, which they turn into money for defibs, which are all around the county now, to clothes, school uniform, toys, ornaments, which they sell for pennies or give to other charities. Any money made is also given to other local charities. They are an absolutely amazing group of volunteers, and support zero waste. They also collect gardening items for Friends of Victoria Park, who I'm chair of. So obviously, we encourage children to grow from cuttings and from seeds, enjoying parks, enjoying open spaces. We've had so many groups coming to Victoria Park now, and they're all doing their own thing. Excuse me. Stafford Railway Station now has a bee-friendly hotel, the whole area cleared from rubbish and wildflowers planted, thanks to a Scout and Cub group who were inspired after a lock-in at Victoria Park. So from small things, great things grow. Both of these groups that I'm involved with are now cost-effective and even give any profits made to other charities. I could spend hours giving you details of other groups involved and the hours volunteered, but I'm aware of the time restraint here. But I would like to say a huge thank you to Gemma, the Waste Minimalisation Manager, which Asaf has just mentioned, who brought in the idea of the huts for the paint at the dumps. They are an absolute brilliant idea of stopping waste on paint. So I'm challenging everyone in this chamber today to do something more towards zero waste. Whether large or small, it really doesn't matter. Rehome, recycle, reuse, just do a little bit more, and Simon Tagg's journey to a circular economy will be a little smoother. Thank you.
Councillor Nigel Yates.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Completely support this initiative, and certainly I'd like to back up what Councillor Trowbridge has just said about the officers and Gemma and the work which she's done, not just with the paint store, but with recycling disabled equipment and things which usually just goes to get crushed in the metal waste. Fantastic achievement. A couple of things is that our district council is looking to reintroduce appropriate recycling facilities within our facilities, both within the offices and also within some of our car parking spaces. And what I want to do is to, and I've already spoken to Gemma Wall, is to get that coordinated with the county council. So we put in a complimentary offer, not a competing offer, because the car parks are obviously open 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. So for certain things we can drop off and perhaps free up a little bit of space at the recycling centres for more innovative things like the disabled plant and the paint and whatever. I also want to make a shout out when we're looking at circular economy to the repair cafes which are springing up, which do an absolutely fantastic job. And also there's a relatively new thing which is operating, again very metropolitan at the moment, but the Library of Things, where as they become a library of DIY tools and gardening equipment and associated products which are perhaps too expensive for an individual to buy, but collectively kept in one place, then they can be loaned out and rented out at minimal charge and then returned. And if that isn't the epitome of a circular economy, I don't know what is. And I'm just wondering whether the county council, as an expansion of this circular economy and the reuse and repurpose, they could offer some kind of support to help set those up, whether that's with space or whether that's with small grants. And I think it's something which potentially the subtle changes which have happened with the Climate Change Fund is the kind of thing which it could be directed to as well, because it does have a massive impact on our communities. It does have a big impact in reducing waste, and it also promotes and highlights the importance of minimising waste and reusing things. Thank you.
Councillor Richard Cox.
Thank you, Chairman. Just picking up on a point that was just mentioned there, in terms of recycling those hospital equipment and so forth, there is an absolute fabulous organisation, charity, within my division, which most of probably will have heard of, in terms of Grace Cares. And they are absolutely fundamental in dealing with that very, very issue. And I've got a great relationship with them. The energy that those young ladies and gentlemen that are involved within that sector is immense. And it's such a pleasure to go and visit them on a period of time to time, also with my role at the District Council. So if anybody wonders what happens, you know, they are recycling it, they are fixing, and they're doing everything else. And the other point that I'd also make is the organisation Men's Shed. They do a very similar thing as well. And certainly I visited Men's Shed in Lichfield, and again, not just the recycling and everything else, but not forgetting the dealing with isolation and mental health. All of those, like, charities are doing such a wonderful thing for our communities. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Simon Tagg.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for those comments. I think I was really pleased to bring this item through Cabinet in September. I think it's an important part of our drive towards being a more sustainable county. I think also it allows communities to come together, work with businesses, work with our communities, parishes, and everybody else to work together to reach what would be a goal for us all, which is the circular economy. I'll just, on the back of Councillor Hookfield's prompt there, just talk a bit more about what a circular economy is. And it's focused on what are called the 7 Rs. That's reduce waste, that's reuse products and materials, that's recycle materials, that's redesign projects for a longer life, repair to extend that life as well, and then renew through sustainable practices and recover the value of those resources if we can't reuse them. And the goal is to ensure that products and materials maintain the highest value for as long as possible, and that they also support economic growth. So members have already talked about quite a lot of what's already going on in the county. I'll highlight some of those as well. With County Council help and with our communities taking the lead, we've launched recover, repair and reuse materials schemes for bicycles, electrical goods and even musical instruments, ensuring that they're given a new lease of life in our communities, often going to disadvantaged parts of the communities for them to use and to get more use out of. We're partnering with charities to collect unused food and redistribute those to those that need it most, to tackle some of the, obviously, food deprivation which we have in the county. And then the realms of technology, you will have seen this about the, on our recycling sites, bringing used and unused now electric equipment to be refurbished. And thousands of devices have been reused and brought back into use, and helping to bridge that digital divide we've got as well across the county by giving them to the people that can't afford those devices. Now, we're having donations from our residents all the time at our 14 household waste recycling sites, and this plays a crucial role in our recycling initiatives across the county, and an average of 47,000 tonnes of recycled materials are reused every year from those sites already. So, as we move forward with our circular economy, we need to transform the way we live, work and consume by ensuring that the products and materials we use remain at top value and in use throughout the cycle of their life, and then reducing the waste that comes out at the end of this to get to where we want to be a zero waste county. And we're laying the foundations of that in this report, which we took to Cabinet in September. These are the first steps, but ultimately over the next few years we will outline further reports to Cabinet how we scale up these projects, foster new green businesses as well in Staffordshire based around the circular economy, and also develop those skills that are badly needed to support this new economy for Staffordshire. So this is a journey not just about the environment, it's also about giving people better jobs and better skills and creating those in that sustainable industries that's only going to grow and grow and grow across Staffordshire. And it will also, I think, put Staffordshire on the map. I go off to conferences. I'll be going to the LGA later in the month, LGA conference in Harrogate. And I think we'll be one at the forefront now on this. We've caught up really. I went to the LJ conference last year and saw a lot of innovation going on in this area. And I think over the last year, this county council has caught up and is now one of the leaders in this area. So I look forward to speaking about that at the conference in Harrogate later in the year. I think really welcome member support for this, and I think out in our communities already and the work that's already going on. I think we've got a sustainable future based around a circular economy, based on zero waste, and I really commend that to members. Thank you.
Can I just remind members that once the Cabinet member has spoken, that is the end of the debate as far as the Chamber is concerned, apart from the leader. Councillor Alan White.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm really taken by the Library of Things idea. It's a great idea, but at the same time, I'm also reminded of the Ronald Reagan quote on the 12th of August 1986, where he said, "The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help." If we start getting involved in these sort of things, can you imagine who's going to take responsibility if somebody borrows a nail gun and shoots themselves through the foot? Whilst I applaud the sort of ad hoc nature of these things, and I remember my dad had there was a tool library on his allotment where he could borrow a hoe if he'd forgotten and what have you. I think the council's role in this should be extremely limited, but I do support the general principle. I just wanted to reference the close work between the 2 tiers of government in Staffordshire as part of this work that Councillor Tagg is leading on. We are well served by district and borough councillors in this chamber, and the knowledge that they bring to the disposal authority, which is our role, in their duties as the collection authority, really does strengthen the offer that we're able to make to residents across Staffordshire. Councillor Tagg, as well as being the portfolio holder in this area, is also the leader of Newcastle Underline Borough Council, for anybody that didn't know. And knowing that means that we can tailor our offer to different parts of the county. It would be madness to think that the collection authority in Burton-upon-Trent, where there's lots of terrace houses, would have the same sort of objectives and ambitions as, say, in Lichfield District, because they're different places. And I think that local knowledge really does play into our ambitions of developing a circular economy, and it allows us to perform much better than we would do otherwise. So I do applaud the 2-tier endeavour here in Staffordshire, and I think it should continue on to deliver for Staffordshire.
Staying with the leader's statement, we move on to item 9, which is Staffordshire, the Staffordshire Cultural Strategy. Councillor Anne Edgeler.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I cannot let this item go by without mentioning the opening of the William Salt Library in November. What a fantastic project. Great news for Stafford and Staffordshire and the wider community. Please, I ask everyone to visit it when it opens in November. You will be blown away with the history it contains. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Charlotte Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm pleased to see that refurbished libraries now include a flexible space which can be used by community groups for events and other activities. I'm certainly looking forward to the Nicholson Institute its library being remodelled and refurbished. And I know our own Chief Executive has taken a very personal interest in the Nicholson Institute, having visited it and having memories as a child visiting it as well, because I have attended a poetry evening at the library, but I have to say I did feel rather hemmed in by the books. And I do think that opening up a more flexible space, which is more comfortable for community groups, would be a great way forward. So very much looking forward to the repair of the building and to the remodelling of the library.
Councillor David Smith.
Thank you, Chairman. I welcome any cultural strategy, but cultural strategies take a long time to develop and a long time to evolve. And it leads me to recall that it is 21 years this year since we opened the Lichfield Garrick. The Lichfield Garrick has gone from being a struggling local theatre to becoming a significant regional theatre, presenting a very, very wide spread of activities. I recall, Chairman, that the opening night at the Garrick. My role was to go and make a very short speech, which is perhaps unusual for me, to make a short speech and then turn round to the band that was performing for the opening night and count them in 1, 2, 3, and the band was to come up and play. Nothing happened. So I thought, not to be daunted. 1, 2, 3. Nothing at all happened. I thought, third time lucky, and I went again, 1, 2, 3, and nothing happened. The band leader then came and whispered in my ear, "I'm very sorry, but I forgot to tell the band what you were going to do." And it only makes me feel that leadership is all very well and good, but if you don't carry the population with you, you don't do very well. So, Chairman, I welcome the report. I look forward to support for the Garrick and the things which go on with the very, very active cultural activities within the Lichfield area. And I welcome the report, Chairman.
Councillor Jill Hood.
I can't miss this opportunity to, I feel like it's a boast to talk about our brand new theatre in Stone, which has been funded with government money, HS2 money, people have bought seats, every man and his dog has donated, and we are due to open. Our opening night is November the 8th. And I just feel I'm bursting with pride. I'm a trustee, and I won't say everything's gone to plan. It's been a very long and difficult road. November the 8th wasn't originally the date we planned to open. It was last May that we planned to open, but certain things hit the fan and we just couldn't open. But it's a remarkable achievement for a group of volunteers, and it's a huge group of volunteers from all around Stone to actually bring this theatre to an opening date. And we have bookings well into the new year, and we have people, famous people, who've made inquiries to ask about warm-up tours. I'm never sure what a warm-up tour is, but I'm sure I'm going to be very knowledgeable very soon. So I'm delighted that we have this cultural strategy, and I'm hoping that it will support us in Stone. We've almost sold out of all our tickets for the opening night. Also the pantomime, we have very few tickets left, but you're all very welcome to buy tickets and come along and support us. So if you put November the 8th in your diary, if you're quick, you will be able to get tickets. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Hood, and congratulations to Stone to having its first ever theatre. I'm sure me and my wife will go there one day as we big theatre fans. Councillor John Francis.
Thank you, Chairman. I welcome this strategy. I think it's absolutely an excellent thing that we're doing here. May I remind all the councillors in this chamber that we as Staffordshire County Council kept all our libraries open purely by the introduction of our policy, which allowed volunteers to keep the libraries open. And a library in one of my divisions, when I was in that division, we got all the community together as one who actually volunteered to keep the library open, which is an absolutely outstanding achievement that this county council has not closed one library, unlike a lot of our peer groups and neighbours, I might add.
Councillor Keith Flunder.
Thank you, Chair. Just like to really remind people that obviously the strategy has to fit into the strategy around the whole of the county. The Moorlands are looking at their own cultural strategy at the moment. We're arranging meetings, everything else. I may have mentioned this in the past, but we are going to try and see the new history centre and things like that. But we are going to be working quite closely, and this is why I welcome the strategy at the moment, in relation to both tourism and the LVIP arrangements that we have in the north of the county. So overall, I think it's a very important strategy, far more than people realise, I think, at times. And it does spread across a very, very wide area, including history as well. But I do like the idea of trying to put more events, coming from the events background myself. And if we can promote more events, as I've already heard in Stone and other places, I'd hope that we can start putting a little bit more, a few more bums on seats and try and support this throughout a very good combined strategy across the whole county. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Richard Cox.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I think libraries, we have kept the libraries open, absolutely. And Lichfield is a prime example of a campaign that was well articulated with the wrong message. Save our library. It wasn't about saving a library, because what we were doing was giving 30 years plus into our community. So we weren't losing a library at all. So the opposition, particularly I would say the Green Party, completely got it wrong because they thought they were on a winning ticket, didn't look at the detail. And actually, we've now got a thriving library in Lichfield. We've got the St Mary's Hub that operates there. It was rammed to the rafters, and I have to say the hub is in the rafters, so I'm allowed to say that, with activity of the mental health, Staffordshire Mental Health Network, and it's a great community building, not just for the library, but for meeting people and everything else. So I welcome at any time a cultural strategy that enhances what it's all about and within our communities. So I fully support the paper. Thank you.
Councillor Victoria Wilson.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you very much to everybody for their very positive comments. And I think everyone will probably agree that culture within this county is not just about the embarrassment of riches that we have to showcase in this county, but it also promotes a feeling of pride, of belonging, and a common sense of purpose. It actually makes people feel better about themselves. So I'm delighted that we're bringing this cultural strategy forward. Just alluding to some of the points that have been raised, I'm thrilled at the work that we're doing with the Nicholson Institute, and I cannot wait to see that project delivered. And there are projects all over the county being delivered as well. We've got Wombourne in the pipeline. We've just almost finished with Burton Library as well. And as has been mentioned, we have not closed a single library in this county. And there are authorities around the country who are coming to us asking us for advice on how we're doing this. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of those volunteers who get out of bed every morning and go along to the library and actually feel as if they are participating in the community. So this is fantastic. I'd like to also thank Councillor Trowbridge and Councillor Sylvester Hall, because they identified that if you look around this room that we're in now, the paintings around this room are lovely, but they only represent men. So if you've walked into this building today and you've walked along the corridor, you will see a plethora of photographs of women of note in Staffordshire, and a little blurb to say exactly what they did. And I'm so proud of that, and thank you very much for doing that. But it's just showcasing what we've got in this county. So this strategy is going to be developed, and it's going to work within our pillars, of course, and our priorities as a council, but we will take this work forward. The most important and exciting part of this for me just now is that we have the Staffordshire History Centre just around the corner at Eastgate, which is part of the Eastgate regeneration. That was an £8.7 million project that was developed by this council and helped by other authorities and other organisations. And that will be opening hopefully towards the end of this year. But that is something that's going to house all of those wonderful, marvellous collections we have. And it also allows people in this county to go along and do research about Staffordshire, which has a rich history, and also to find out more about their own families. So I'm really grateful for all the positive comments, and I will bring more information forward as it develops. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Moving on to item 10 on the leading statement, which is the Intelligent Transport Systems Maintenance Contract. I have no speakers. Councillor DeVille, do you wish to speak?
Yeah, good morning members. Thank you, Chairman. I'm not going to do a Mr Smith 1, 2, 3, Chairman, but I'm going to do a 1, 2. Two key priorities, Chairman, for the work that I do within my role, you won't be surprised. One is to enhance road safety right across the county. And the other one is to ensure that whilst doing that, we ensure that our Staffordshire taxpayers get very best value for money. So the enhancement of road safety. Tremendous work's done in all of our areas by all of our members. And all members have got some really, really good and interesting initiatives in enhancing road safety. I was with Mr. Yates a couple of weeks ago looking at some interesting proposals that he has in the town centre. So road safety, key priority. And a big component of road safety, Mr. Chairman, is the proper maintenance of the equipment that we have. And the amount of equipment that we have across the county is intense. 181 signal junctions, 384 pelican crossings, 127 vehicle-activated signs, these slow signs, etc. And importantly, 51 of those flashing beacons outside our schools. I think the safety of school children is of paramount importance. So the maintenance of all this equipment is really essential, and it's intense and complicated work. So that's one key priority. As for the money, that's a real priority, that we achieve maximum value, Chairman, because we're talking about a lot of money. The budget to maintain all of our equipment across Staffordshire, which is a very large county, the budget is between 1.4 and £2 million, Chairman. So I'm sure that all members will agree with me that it's essential that we absolutely keep our fingers on the pulse as far as this is concerned. And I assure members that we absolutely do that and will continue to do that. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Item 11 on the leader statements, which is the delivery plan and updates for housing with care strategy and day services. Councillor Nigel Yates.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chair. Residents' physical and mental health is improved and maintained by having a warm, safe and affordable to heat home. I just want to remind everybody, if they didn't know, that when it comes to disabled facilities grants, there is provision within that grant to support this aim with actual physical improvements within the home to do that, whether that be more secure locks and more secure doors, household insulation grants. And in the Staffordshire Moorlands, one of the initiatives we are doing with our disabled facilities grant is anybody who applies for one, when the assessment is made, there is also an EPC check done to see whether you've got a current one, or if there isn't a current one, to actually put an EPC check in. This allows the officers to look to see if there's any improvements to the fabric of the building which would provide that comfortable and safe and sustainable home, which has a direct bearing upon health. So I'd just like to inform other district and borough councillors here that that is an option which the DFG can deliver, and that is a very important option to actually safeguard safety and mental health as well as physical well-being going forward and sustainably.
Pleased to see that we're talking about housing with care strategy, and I'm hoping that somewhere in this strategy there'll be something developed for our care leavers, our older younger people that we look after, and that there really is a need. Councillor Yates has talked about mental health. Many of these youngsters suffer with mental health problems and desperately need a secure place to live. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Charlotte Atkins.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm particularly interested in extra care housing because I think it does make a real difference to elderly people who don't want to go into a care or a nursing home, and does extend the time they can spend being more active. So what assessment has been made of the capacity of existing extra care housing schemes to meet demand for that type of accommodation? And are we seeing at the moment that extra care developments have got long waiting lists? And if that is the case, is the County Council looking at that? And if so, therefore encouraging the development of additional schemes of that nature? And I'd be interested to know whether the demand for extra care housing is consistent across the county, or whether particular areas, like for instance the Staffordshire Moorlands, where we have an older than average elderly population, have higher demands.
Councillor Alan White.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Deal with the last point first on the extra care housing need assessment. It's not a coincidence that all the directors sit next to me during the course of the council meeting, so when questions come in that I don't know the answer to, I just turn to them and say, when is the extra care housing strategy going to get published? And Dr. Richard Harling tells me, later on in the autumn. How's that? So there you go, you got your answer there. Thank you to Councillor Hood for raising the points about care leavers. I know that Councillor Sutton is closely monitoring the situation for care leavers, and we know we've got to do more to make sure that those care leavers are adequately provided for. To Councillor Yates, we are working closely with districts and boroughs on DFGs, but you sort of left me with a little bit of an open goal there, Councillor Yates, haven't you? Because you said warm, safe, affordable to heat homes are vital in our communities. Yeah, the thing about heating your home is it does cost money, and if you happen to have 400 quid towards that before, you haven't now. So your general point is fair, but I'm afraid I had to make that point as a retort. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Moving on to item 12 on the leading statements, which is the resettlement team. I currently have no speakers. Councillor Wilson, do you want to come in? No? Okay, moving on. Moving on to item 13, which is the commissioning of home care placements. Again, I have no speakers. Lady, do you want to come in? Okay, move on. Item 4, I'll start again. Item 14. A conversion of government around devolution. Councillor Charlotte Atkins. Am I on the wrong one? I called you, Councillor.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
It was the silence. I wondered whether I got it wrong.
I'm grateful to the Staffordshire Leaders Board for their statement and for their application to government on devolution. I really do believe that devolution can bring greater growth and prosperity to our towns and cities and villages. But what I'm concerned about locally in the north of the county, that some misinformation seems to be widespread, that somehow this is all about Stoke-on-Trent taking over the Staffordshire Moorlands. And this is a myth which has been promoted by, I'm not quite sure who, but certainly on social media. And so I'm grateful to the Leaders Board for making it very clear that devolution is not about local government reorganisation. And I hope the Leaders Board will continue to make that clear via their minutes and so on, because clearly we need all of us to be in favour and working towards a good devolution deal, hopefully without a mayor, because I don't think we need another tier of local government. But I think it is important that we all understand what devolution really means, and it's not about Stoke-on-Trent taking over Staffordshire Moorlands or indeed any sort of local government reorganisation.
Thank you, Councillor Atkins. I'll repeat, we're on item 14, and I need to put my glasses on before I read it. It's a conversation with government around devolution. Councillor Simon Tagg.
Thank you, Chairman. Firstly, I'd like to thank the leader of the council, Councillor Aaron White, for the work he has done on getting us to this stage where obviously County Council, along with the City Council in Stoke and also all of the districts, have signed up to this letter of expression of interest for a possible devolution deal. I think that's a good move forward. I think there's many things we could do better if we had more power and resources here in Staffordshire, and the offer we're making to the government is to do that on the existing lines of local government management, that is the districts and the county and the city working together. I think just in response to Councillor Atkins, I think it's really important that we And I think it's really important that it's in this statement about this, particularly about a local government reorganisation, is that this is not about that. But we have to say right at the beginning that we do not want that, because I'm afraid that the Labour in government have form on this. Up until 2010, there was a move towards unitarisation. And I believe, personally, I was leader of the Borough Council in Newcastle at that time, I believe if the Labour government had been elected in 2010, they would have forced through unitarisation across the board. Thankfully, we got a Conservative government that came in that put it back to local authorities to see how they wanted to work together, and some have gone down that route. But clearly Staffordshire doesn't want to go down that route, nor do I believe the City of Stoke-on-Trent do either. So I think putting that first and foremost out there and making that an issue right at the beginning of this process was the right thing to do. And I was asked the question up in Newcastle in the Borough Council there, my views on it, and I clearly said this is not about unitarisation. We would fight that tooth and nail. And also it's not about an elected mayor, because in the north of the county, as members from the north will know, we have experience of an elected mayor in the City of Stoke-on-Trent that was voted out a process. It was a disaster. Mayors have got a bad name. They may work in other areas like big cities such as London, but I think we have a leaders board led by the leader of the county council, vice-chaired by the city council, and districts and borough leaders playing their part within that. I think that is a good way forward, and hopefully the government will listen to us on that, and there are things we can do, such as on transport, on skills, employment, and on economic generation that we could do better here in Staffordshire if we had the powers and resources to do that. And I completely support the letter that went into the government asking for that conversation to begin.
Councillor Alan White.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to talk directly to Councillor Atkins' point. There is absolutely no desire for unitarisation across the north. The three district leaders in the north, Councillor Mike Gledhill of the Moorlands, Aidan Godfrey of Stafford and Simon Tagg of Newcastle-under-Lyme Borough Council, and myself are very clear about this. And Mike Gledhill has made this very clear in meetings of the Leaders Board, that any idea of unitarisation is for the birds. The four of us covering the north, helped by the fact that three of us are Manchester City fans, Mike Gledhill, Aidan Godfrey and myself. I'm working on Councillor Tagg. We're some way off yet, but surely we will come together as part of this process. I think the main objective of the devolution agenda is to make the place we live in better, and recognising the fact that bureaucrats in Whitehall don't know what life is like in Newcastle-under-Lyme or Kinver or Uttoxeter. We do. Local councillors do, and we are better placed than they are to understand our area. To the point about a mayor, and let me be very clear about this, if we were to be told to elect a mayor, the mayor will have to come from some part of Staffordshire or Stoke-on-Trent. Do you think that a mayor elected from Burntwood would have any understanding at all of life in Leek? No. Therefore, the best way to deduce what's needed for our residents is to work together as a group of democratically elected authorities to provide the solutions that our people need. We share the same objective, but we now come from different political walks of life. But what is interesting about this objective is that when we talk about it, we are unified in common purpose. The difference being is that some of us around the table at the Leaders Board would like to take a bit of a left turn, some of us would like to take a bit of a right turn, but ultimately, the objective we're heading towards is exactly the same. Make Staffordshire and Stoke-on-Trent a better place to live with better jobs, better growth prospects and a better economy. That's what we're trying to achieve, and I do hope any fluff and nonsense about unitarisation just disappears off, because it's not going to happen on this watch.
Moving on to item 15, which is fixing more roads. Councillor Asfour.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to start by extending my thanks for the ongoing efforts and progress that's been made regarding road repairs in my division of Burton Town. It's encouraging to see the positive impact these improvements have had on our road users and the community, albeit there's been issues with light, traffic, etc. and I sincerely hope that County Council Highways and the Cabinet Member will continue these same efforts on some of the schemes that have a phase 2 attached to them, especially the second phase of the Derby Road and New Street works, hopefully to be completed in early 2025. However, I'd just like to draw the Cabinet Member and Highways' attention to a situation surrounding the Branston Bridge area in Burton-on-Trent, which is obviously most likely affecting residents from all divisions in Burton-on-Trent. The current state of affairs has caused significant frustration amongst residents, road users and business owners alike, which have reached a critical point. The Branston Bridge serves as a vital route in and out of Burton, and the current challenges that are faced daily causing significant disruption, especially the areas of signage where the weight limit's been reduced to 7.5 tonnes and the road being restricted to one lane using concrete blocks. It's creating a daily chaos, resulting in residents and road and ultimately turning to the councillors. I'd be grateful if the County Council, although obviously I understand there are investigation works that have started, but if they could prioritise finding a resolution and establishing a plan of action as soon as possible on this issue. And I'd greatly appreciate if the County Council would, along with Highways, would seek assistance in expediting decisions with the relevant departments, MPs, Network Rail and all others to address this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Not surprising, I have an awful lot of speakers on this item. Councillor Philip Woodson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Uttoxeter, I speak every meeting, don't I, about my roads in Uttoxeter because I'm so passionate about them. So there's a lot of work being done and there's lots of different things happening. So the £8 million for fixing the potholes, that's being done. We're also getting some work in Uttoxeter where we're levelling up the surfaces ready for a top coat next year, and that's great. But I think I need to make you aware that, and thank my local highways team, that's Richard, Kaylee, Sam and Sam, because I regularly get shopping lists from the Labour-controlled Town Council and ESBC, but we're ahead of the game all the time. And they send me War and Peace. It must take them hours to write these emails to me. All they need to do is say, can you look at this road, that road and that road? I can say, we're already doing it. Richard and myself went to the Town Centre Forum in Uttoxeter a couple of weeks ago because they wanted to talk to us about the High Street in Uttoxeter. But, so we sat down and we looked at the reports that they got there. It was all doom and gloom. So we wanted to say, actually, it's not as bad as you think. There's a lot of good things happening in Uttoxeter. What we've done in the 3.5 years that I've been the councillor there is that we've done various roadworks on the outskirts of the town to make it safe for people to come and visit Uttoxeter and use their retail, spend the money in Uttoxeter. So it's not just the actual town centre. We've done a lot of work to make it safe for people to travel to Uttoxeter to boost their economy. The residents keep saying, well, what about this, what about that? Okay, so Carter Street was missed. It's in the town centre. It was probably my priority, but I've got to be honest that Keith sorted the answer out for me before I went to that meeting, and we have 2 dates now where that road will be completed. Uttoxeter residents say, what are you doing about pedestrianisation in the high street at Uttoxeter? The County Council want to totally pedestrianise the high street in Uttoxeter because we want to make it safe for people to walk down there. We want to encourage businesses into the town centre. So I want to totally pedestrianise that street. However, because of the announcement of the East Staffordshire Borough Council only a couple of weeks ago, there's a delay in purchasing the maltings and regenerating that. I'm at a bit of a standstill now. I can't really do a lot. So what I'm going to do, residents, is I'm going to redesign and reinstate the bollard in pedestrianisation to make it safe for you temporarily whilst we sort out the maltings. So we're doing a lot of work in Uttoxeter on our roads, and thank you, Mark, and thank you, Keith, for your help, and also James Bailey. It's not doom and gloom, residents in Uttoxeter. It's very positive. We've done a lot. There's still a long way to go. Please, can we get back lane done? I mention it every time. It will be such a win-win for the residents of Uttoxeter. We've promised it for years. It's a health and safety thing for the children to get to that school safe and stop cars going down there where they shouldn't. The plans are drawn up. The money was agreed. I just need it scheduling. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Anne Edgeler.
Very much, Chairman. A34 Radford Bank. Wow. I'm amazed at the work that is taking place. Thank you to everyone involved. Yes, there's disruption and inconvenience, but I do believe the people living in the area are coping very well. Being the, excuse me, being the county councillor for that area, I personally want to thank the people for their patience and understanding as we go on this very difficult journey. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Kath Perry.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to take this opportunity of thanking the Cabinet Member, Councillor Mark DeVille, for actually coming to visit the A460 around the junction M1 of the M54 in Featherstone a few months ago now, and enabling this work to be carried out. The residents of Featherstone and around are very pleased with the work that's being carried out, and I'm quite sure if you've passed along that way yourselves, which I'm sure most of you have at some point, you'll be pleased to see what's happened out round there. So thank you very much indeed, and keep up the good work. Thank you.
Councillor Nigel Yates.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And first of all, I'd like to start by thanking and congratulating the Highways team in the North for the work which they've done in my division. It was an absolute pleasure to meet up with Councillor DeVille and take him round. And I think you commented on the smoothness of the surfaces before I actually made mention to them. So yes, very much appreciate that. I would like to see a commitment to just making sure we conclude some of the works which weren't quite finished off. I know there was issues with the teams spending a little bit more time in Warrington and Ashbank, and that caused a few delays with the micro surface treatment and some of the finishing off of road marking. So if we can make sure we get those projects concluded next year. What I want to do is emphasise the fact that this is an investment in the roads. It's not just about putting something right and we don't get a return. It makes it safer for the road users, it reduces congestion, and hopefully we'll see a significant reduction in the number of claims and potential claims, because certainly the early middle part of this year was all emails to me and messages to me to say, how do I put a claim in? This is absolutely disgusting. You're responsible. You're going, you know, if somebody dies, it's on your watch. I mean, absolutely disgusting comments in some cases. But it was a measure of the frustration of how bad roads get. So it's good to see that the roads have been put right. We need to continue that to make sure that that maintenance is done so we don't have to overspend to get right. And two other things where I think we need a subtle change of emphasis. The emphasis has been absolutely right on the road servicing. Drainage. We've touched on farming earlier on. The problems are associated with the wetness of the climate. We need to put the same amount of effort as we've done on the road surface on to make sure that the drainage, the gullies, the riparian responsibilities are put forward and maintained and done, because that will make a significant difference on the need for investment going forward on the maintenance side. Finally, I'd like to sort of say that one aspect about the micro asphalt treatment is just to have that little bit of care and attention to do with the edges of the curbstones and things. We have had some instances of, again, coming onto drainage, flooding being diverted into drives because the surface is raised up. So I think as part of that, as part of the works orders, it's just that little bit of fettling at the end. But otherwise, brilliant, very impressed. Thank you.
Councillor Julia Jessel.
Very much, Chairman. I'm going to mention bridges. Roads are not just about potholes, they are about bridges. And I've stood here before and thanked the officers for the support, the tremendous support they gave me in campaigning to get a redesigned bridge over the Trent at Walton. Without that effort, the flooding in Barton would have been made a lot worse. And I have to say, the officers at Staffordshire County Council have been exemplary in this, and I do thank them for that. But I mentioned that because the current bridge over the Trent there is the Bailey Bridge. And to my knowledge, I think there's been a Bailey Bridge at Walton for about 70 years. And we still get HGVs and lorries trying to drive over that bridge. There are huge signs coming off the A38, but I don't know why it is. I used to think it was sat-navs, but these lorry drivers have commercial sat-navs that tell them where they can't go, but they still try to get over that Bailey Bridge. Well, again, thank you to the officers, because there's now a condition on the current planning for the Drakelow development that the developer's got to put in a temporary chicane so that if they do try and drive over that Bailey Bridge, it stops them before in an area where they can turn round, because there's chaos. Now, we come to Branston Bridge, and again, I thank the officers for all the efforts they've made. It has been a difficult period of time, and I know my fellow councillors sitting next to me who are represent neighbouring areas have been harangued by the public as much as I have. I've actually had one member of the public say that it's a Machiavellian plot by the County Council to restrict access to Burton. The accusations that have been made have been absolutely ridiculous and quite offensive. But I have to say, I've been in almost daily contact with Richard Raisin and his team, and on every occasion they have been very good, and I thank Councillor Flunder as well and Councillor DeVille for helping to deal with a very difficult situation which I know has caused huge inconvenience to people. Bus services can't run as normal, people can't get access as normal. I appreciate that. But it is unfortunate that the bridge that I think was built 187 years ago, obviously not built to take the loading that it's taken, is actually got structural defects now. I know the officers are working very hard to come up with short-term fixes. A long-term fix is going to be a very complex engineering solution. And there is a website now where members of the public can access up-to-date information. But I mentioned the Bailey Bridge, 70 years, and drivers of lorries still haven't learnt. Today, I think Councillor Asphalt has showed me a photograph, and it's happening all the time. An HGV lorry is still trying to drive over that bridge. The damage to the concrete bollards has got to be seen to be believed. And I cannot understand why drivers are missing a plethora of signs now to say you can't gain access, and are still trying to do it. I've yet to understand. I've got the same problem in Barton and Dunedwood. We've got HGV drivers driving into the village, ignoring all the road signs, and then trying to do 6-point turns in the middle of the village, bashing over bollards by the War Memorial, etc., etc. So I would just like to say I do appreciate the support I've got. I hope the public take comfort in the fact we're trying to do as much as we can. Thank you very much.
Councillor Richard Cox.
Hello. Thanks, Chairman. I add my thanks to what's happening. I rise to mention the works that are going through the roundabouts for the Rugeley, for the all through school. It's inconvenient to us. It tests our patience. It raises questions of other topical conversations of net zero climate change and sending pollution into the heart of Rugeley town. But this is short term. Can we just get the job done? Because the result is to the benefit of our residents. I've got many emails, and my colleagues on the Cabinet are well aware of the problems of schooling that come from my county division in Armitage with Hansacre and the estate Hawkshire, where we are having, where we can, we are spending money to send them to schools way away from us, that's at a cost. So the quicker we can get this delayed school built, the better. So it's all about appreciating what is happening, and of course to provide that all through school will be, it's an initiative of infrastructure going in before house build. You don't often hear that. And in this instant, this is infrastructure going in, as I say. And people have to understand that. Do they not cry out to us, infrastructure, infrastructure? And then when you come to do infrastructure, oh, it's an inconvenience. Why are you doing it there? Why does it have to be there? Can't it be from there and everything else? It's a complex plan that will house over 2,000 houses here. And if that's the plan of access and egress to a school that will be operational, hopefully, next September, bring it on. So I'm extremely happy about it. Potholes, we all know about the potholes. Parish councils within my division are acknowledging work is being done, but at the same time, work still has to be done. I actually concur with Councillor Yates in terms of the gullies and the drains. That is also an issue that needs to be addressed. I've got areas within my division. But it's, you know, we're doing what we can, I think, in this county, and I think there is a difference being shown. And I also welcome the investment that will go into the bridge, because bridges were mentioned, at the edge of Kings Bromley Parish at Riley Hill, to get that continued problem of it being a problem with potholes. It needs an additional investment, and I'm assured that that will also occur. So I welcome that. And in road safety, we do what we can. And HGVs, I'm with Councillor Jessel. Do they need glasses? That's all I can say. Because it isn't about sign after sign after sign. Because we're in the countryside. I don't want to see litter of signs just to tell drivers of HGVs that they shouldn't be there. There's a bit of common sense that also needs to be applied. How we do that, I don't know. But thank you, team at the Highways and Councillor DeVille and Pritchard and Flunder. Thank you.
Councillor Samantha Thompson.
Thank you. I'd like to add my thanks for the works done in Norton Keynes on the junction of Buntwood Road and Brown Hills Road. I'd also like to add my thanks to the team that did the work. They put up a lot with me. I used to go, oh, can I ring you? Can I walk you through? Can I do this? Can I do that? And they literally listened to every concern that I picked up from a resident. So I'd just like to say thank you very much for the work spent in Norton Keynes, and thank you very much for the team. Thank you.
Councillor Paul Snape.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. It's not very often that myself and Councillor Yates agree on many things, but I'd like to thank him for the comments he made about investment in our roads across the highway, across the county. Every pound we spend really saves us a pound, because we don't have all the civil action, whatever it is, and it's the ongoing. I've had a lot of money spent on my division. For that, I'm thankful to Cabinet, many infrastructure projects. But I think a question I would like to ask is, we were told 2 years ago a moratorium was put on the footpaths. They couldn't be done because of the digital work that was being done, kept being built up. I've got quite a few which are now in a very, very poor state of repair. And I've asked them to be done. I keep being told they can't be done because we're not spending money on footpaths. Could I ask, please, when that moratorium will be lifted, we can go back to repairing footpaths as well?
Councillor Hussain.
Chairman, I would like to take this opportunity to pay my tribute to the Highways team, especially the Cabinet member and the Cabinet support member as well. And besides this, my team led by Richard Raisons for tremendous improvement going on in my Stapnell area. The roads, which is long standing issues, it was in Sycamore Road, and all the roads are watersides, and many streets in Anglesey. So well done for the hard work and the highways. Also, besides this, a good news story, Mr. Chairman. I would like to mention there are many, many gullies we need to look into it. Not all gullies which are problematic we can identify and can visit it as an ad hoc basis so that we can save time and resources as well. At the same time, we can get the proper result on it. Some footpaths, we need an urgent attention as well. Not all footpaths, because many residents, because mobility issues, they used it, and some are very active pedestrians. So if we can look into the footpaths which are badly damaged, where we got some list through your highways officers as well, and I would be grateful for it. Mr. Chairman, finally, I was talking to my colleague here. There are some defeated councillor candidates on some very colorful characters. They're very active in the Facebook. They use those colorful language. And personally, it talked to me, which is regarding this Brunston Bridge area, which is out of my division as well. But they use this opportunity to demonize us and demonize our good effort. Despite this, we will carry on. We know these people, they will never stop. They're not interested about the infrastructure or road development. They're after our heads, actually, and try to humiliate us. And also, there is a big concern about the public transport. And through the chief executive in our recent meeting, I mentioned about that right now, X11, one of our contractor bus, they operate from town to one of my area to Anglesey and going back to the town again. And if we can little bit ask them that if you can extend your service towards the bridge itself, so that the vast majority of people from the Brunston, they will be benefited as well. I got the permission before I speak this one, so we can, rather going for further investment, we can minimize people inconvenience in this way as well. And my glass is half full. I'm sure the cabinet member will look into this matter and help us as well. Thank you once again, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor John Francis.
Sorry, I was asleep then. Thank you, Chairman. I must congratulate our highways teams. I think they're doing a splendid job, and the cabinet member, Mark. What I can say is that any leader or any manager is only as good as the people underneath him. If you ain't got good people underneath you can't do the job, and you get let down. Yeah, absolutely. So I can thank the officers who've helped me a lot, which is Lisa Hall and Richard Rayson, and the rest of the team up in Stone. Unfortunately, Lisa's now moved to Lichfield, which is a big loss for us. I can just mention a couple of things. I've had a 7.5-ton weight limit put on Brockton Road, which goes from the A513 to the A34, which is about 1.75 miles long. It's been totally ignored, and we've got the police officers on the job to try and sort it out. However, putting a limit on doesn't work unless you've got enforcement. And unfortunately, the enforcement isn't up to scratch at the minute. The other thing I had done was to put traffic lights on the Milford bridges, canal bridges, down at Milford going to Tixall, which has proved a boom with these roadworks going on around Weeping Cross and various other places, because the traffic is absolutely horrendous because it's a rat run. So I've had that done. The major point in my division, which is a serious issue, is Brockton Crossroads. We've tried to get traffic lights on there for 30 years that I know about, when I was chairman of the parish council in the area. And it's not happened. I begged them to put temporary lights on those crossroads while all these works are going on at Weeping Cross, and that hasn't happened. I've got a meeting next week about that. But we had 2 serious smashes last week. You can guarantee that there's at least 1 bump a week at those crossroads, because people are turning right coming from Sawpit Lane onto the A34 and coming up Teddersley Road from Pankridge and turning right going towards Cannock. So there's some serious issues there which we need to address, PDQ to be quite frank. But I must admit, the highways team and the officers in particular are great. Thank you, Mark.
Councillor Ian Parry.
Thank you, Chair. I will be brief. My residents too are beneficiaries of this. There's about £450,000 about to be spent in the next couple of weeks on a major junction and confluence of two major roads. But that isn't the reason I wanted to speak. The reason is, just listening to this discussion this morning, cross-chamber, of examples of the work that's been carried out and the improvements that have been achieved. That this has not been without effort, you know, and I'm sure my cabinet colleagues will speak after me and explain this too. But I think we need to appreciate just what it's taken to achieve this. You know, there are councils not far from here who have no money to repair any potholes unless they're absolutely category A dangerous, have no money to do any of the improvements or the major resurfacing and reconstruction of many roads that we've done. This has taken significant additional resources that we've had to find as a county council. We've had to prioritise and put that resource in place. But that isn't all. That isn't all. We were determined not to just throw money at this, but actually to get the management, the performance management, the responsiveness and the quality that was necessary to be able to achieve this. Anybody can chuck money at this, and it doesn't necessarily deliver. We've, in fact, learned that lesson in the past. And we now know that actually you have to put your money on a very short leash if you want it to deliver, because there is a chain, there is a flow in terms of the way these things work. But I think we've nailed it clearly from the responses of people this morning. We have nailed this. It hasn't gone away. When you have an asset the size that we have, the network that we have, which is largely rural, which takes a lot of heavy traffic, because we are in the centre of the UK, the centre of the country, and we do get a lot of heavy traffic. And it is agricultural, and we are getting heavier vehicles on our roads. This will be a constant battle for us, which we are determined to wrestle with and get on top of. And besides that, equally, because of weather change, probably because of climate change, possibly because of new weather patterns that we're going to be facing over the winter months, we need to bear down on those flooding issues, those drainage issues, and we need to cry out to landowners to take full regard of their riparian duties to make sure that they don't use our highways as a drainage ditch. Our highways are roads to run on, and they're meant to flow off the highway onto drainage ditches rather than the other way around. So, plea is to, particularly as we come into the winter, keep those ditches clear, keep those grips cut, keep any water on the land and disposed of on the land rather than onto the roads, because it doesn't help. We've got enough to do of our own without having to organise other people. But that's the next task. We've got to get on top of that before the winter comes, and I'm sure we will do. But this has been done with major investment and major management by brilliant colleagues in the Cabinet and their teams that respond, that are accountable to them. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Janet Eagland.
Thank you, Chair. I rise this morning to ask and make a plea to all the utility companies. We have roadworks that need to be done, and so do they have things to be done in their utilities programme. In my division, a small village, a settlement really, is cursed by HS2. They have closed roads on the north and south during the time for traffic going north and south. This time, they've closed the road going north, so there's only the possibility of getting into Lichfield to go on a forward journey is to come off the slip road at the A38 at Street Hay. That's fine, okay, but we've got a new development coming in on that road, believe it or not, which is very narrow. And the utilities were there last week, and they caused a blockage right the way back to the A38 slip road. What more dangerous situation can you have than that? And why was that? Purely because the utilities had brought in traffic lights, temporary traffic lights. What I'm asking the utilities to do, Chairman, is to contact the local highways authority. They can advise them what sequence of lights need to be used in order to keep the traffic flowing. The people at Street Hay have got one way in of to their homes and one way out. And if there's this situation of these temporary traffic lights aren't done with a regular look at the traffic piling up in the road, it's a dangerous situation. So I'd make a plea. Please, utility companies, I know you need to be doing what you're doing, but can you please consult with the local highways team? Thank you, Chair.
I have one more speaker before I bring in the Cabinet member. Councillor Keith Flunder.
Thank you, Chair. I rise to answer some of the questions that have been put forward us today, and Mark will do the rest of the response back to the members. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to all the members that have turned up to some of the meetings that have been arranged by many of the officers. The information and the comms has been a major way that we've been trying to help people to understand what's going on across the whole of the North at the moment. So I'll please ask members to attend those meetings. In fact, I'm going to ask people from Newcastle and Stafford to make sure they attend the two that are coming up. In answer to Branston, Councillor Asfar, in terms of all the work we've done there, most of it is to get the information out that it's now just single line traffic is all that can go across that bridge. The issue we've got with that bridge, of course, is that it's over a train track. And the amount of potential hazard of anything falling onto that track and causing any sort of issue with regard to trains is extremely dangerous. It was an emergency situation, and we did try and put things in very quickly, about 5 weeks ago, wasn't it, I think, when we were called in early one morning. Obviously, in terms of trying to get that information out to the rest of the public, there has to be a little bit of patience in terms of routes, consultation with people there, the B&Q and other areas like that. And I can thank for the members who have brought information in. I would like all members in that area to attend the meetings when we arrange them as well. I think you'll find them very interesting and very useful for you. The team, as our request, has been looking at the idea of putting in some sort of temporary support system. Now, it's not going to take, it's going to still take some time even to do that short idea of being able to put some sort of engineering element in there to try and improve the support of the bridge without affecting the trains, and that's a very difficult situation to try and do, but it is something that's being looked at now. And then, of course, the other part will be what we're going to try and do in the long term, which is probably going to take years rather than months to get anything done there. But the short-term options that we're looking at the moment is something that I think we're going to be presented with within the next month. So people will have to just be patient in that area. That one-way process at the moment across that bridge has to stay in place for obvious safety reasons. So I just thought I'd let you know what's going on that. And if as soon as we hear of anything, then you'll be invited to a meeting. Okay, just on a little short note myself, and thank you for everyone for all your thanks today. It's much appreciated by the three of us. We are working as hard as we can, so thank you very much for that. And can I just thank officers? There was a flash flood in Teen, which is just where myself and Mark more or less lived, not together, by the way, we just happened to be there. What happened there was that at a junction along St Thomas's Road, the tarmac was actually lifted about 1.5 feet in the air and went all over Facebook and everywhere else. Some of you may have seen it. It was like a fountain just being put in the middle of the road. That has actually been repaired. So I just wanted to say thanks to the teams for operating and getting that sorted very much for the local people and the school that's just by that junction. So once again, thank you all for your kind comments today. Cheers.
Councillor Mark DeVille.
Chairman, yeah, enough thanks, Chairman. I'm going to start, first of all, by, again, reflecting on the fact that this council is an extremely well-run council. And each member, everyone in this chamber, is part of that well-run council. What's that enabled us to do? It's enabled us to put extra, not less, extra investment into highways. And I'm delighted with the comments all around this chamber on the positivity that we see in our areas, because that's what we're all here for, isn't it? To make a difference to our residents. You're right, Mr. Francis. Sir Alex Ferguson was only as good as the excellent young players that he had. And I agree with many, many members. And I really appreciate the comments about our hard-working officers. Really, really appreciate that. And I know that Mr. Ayres and Mr. Bailey will gladly pass those thanks on, because the lads out there don't get many thanks. So that is appreciated. And just touching on Mr. Flunder's point, I'd like to thank all members for their input into the dreadful floods that we've experienced over the past 2 to 3 weeks. You know, local members have really, really been active and done the job that local members are supposed to do on the ground by helping out with parish councils, liaising with our highways officers, and again, thanks to the highways officers for their response to these incidents, and thanks in advance to the work that they're going to do during this winter. You know, they're out all hours, keeping our roads safe, gritting roads, clearing snow up in the north, etc. So I'm really pleased to hear members having really positive comments about the excellent officers that we have. So just a little bit of context. We all want to fix more roads. We fixed in the region of 23,000 defects this year to date. That's a considerable increase on last year. Now, it's not all about numbers. That 23,000 doesn't mean much. It's not all about the extra money that we've put in. We're also looking at increasing our efficiency, increasing our productivity, and also increasing the quality of repair. Are we there yet? Not quite, but we're making a really, really good effort to get there. More work to be done. One thing that worries me, Mr. Chairman, there's been far too many members that agree with Mr. Yates today. And, do you know, I'm going to be another one, because you're right, Nigel. Key to our roads, or road safety, and the preservation of our roads is the drainage systems. And again, just in a nutshell, we are clearing gullies at the rate of around 8,000 gullies per month at the moment. Compared with last year, around about 4,500. So it's almost 100% increase on that. And it's massively important, because everything, deterioration of roads, and 90% of the cases comes from water ingress. We've also been extremely successful in delivering our capital projects. Now, of course, capital projects, big works, we've delivered 11 schemes completely and finished them year to date. There are 6 schemes currently in progress, and then we've got scheduled 3 extra schemes to be finished by the end of the year. Now, of course, those schemes do mean disruption. Disruption on the roads, disruption to our residents. So I do apologise for that. I really apologise for that. We do our very, very best to schedule these works in to minimise difficulties for local businesses and local residents. But we do appreciate, again, the patience that people show whilst we're carrying out these works. And I was at Jail Square yesterday. I'm delighted to see the cones have gone. I'm delighted to see the works that have gone on there. It's a massive improvement to the road surface, also a massive improvement to the footways and the drainage systems around that area. Oh, and just another fact, because I like these, the work that we've done on the highway there has preserved and enhanced the surface for a further 15 to 20 years. So it also gives us good value for money. These comments are appreciated. There's no complacency whatsoever. Are we making, and the work is extremely complex. Staffordshire's a massive county. My colleague, Mr. Parry, has said often that it takes less time to drive from Flash down to Kinder than it took for Stoke City to score 6 past Liverpool. And that's true. It's a massive county. The challenges that we face will continue. It's a massive job. Is there any complacency by myself, by my fellow Cabinet support members and our excellent officers? No complacency whatsoever, Chairman.
Councillor Alan White.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A lot been said. I just want to reference a few things. First of all is management of expectation. We can put lots and lots of money into the highways, and the highways will always have defects somewhere. People want good roads. We're doing our best to deliver good roads, but people need to understand that the billiard table they seek is never attainable. Branston Bridge and Chetwynd Bridge, they've been problems for a long time. They need solving. We were promised money under the Network North arrangements from the previous government. We hope to see funding come through this government. We shall wait and see. Jacob Collier, the new MP for Burton-upon-Trent, I do hope, Councillor Hussain, you are lobbying hard to secure that funding, but it does, Chetwynd Bridge and Branston Bridge do create significant problems for people affected by them. I do want to reference the abuse that Councillor Saeed Hussain receives consistently. It is I'll say it again, it is totally unacceptable, the level of abuse that you receive, Councillor Hussain. You do a good job for your local people. I'll pay tribute to you in the council chamber. I've been with you in your division when you first got elected, and some of that abuse that you receive is just not acceptable, and I implore you to report some of it to the police. You shouldn't get used to it, you shouldn't become accustomed to it, and you shouldn't accept it. A couple of other points about roadworks and roads in general. First of all, us asking road users to be patient as they go through roadworks is a bit like asking somebody who's stuck in a traffic jam, well, as they would say when they're stuck in the traffic jam, I can't believe this traffic, not realising, of course, they're contributing to the traffic by being in the traffic. Asking people for patience as they're stuck in roadworks and they're drumming their fingers impatiently on the steering wheel trying to get through a temporary red light is a hard thing to do, and it's hard for people to swallow. However, what we've got to realise is that in order to make the roads better, we've got to do the work. So let us get on with the work. Road signs are not a panacea to the troubles that we face. One of the villages I represent believes that if you put more and bigger signs in the village, the HGVs won't take wrong turns into the village. They will. Oh, they will. And they'll reverse into the bigger signs in the course of doing their 3-point turns to get out of the village. They can't get through. We've got to be careful with road signs because we change the character of our areas by putting massive road signs in these places. And don't forget that an HGV driver who's ignored road signs has ignored their HGV sat-nav, which says, you are coming to a low bridge that you're not going to get under. You're coming to a weak bridge that you're not going to get over. You're coming to a narrow bridge that you're not going to get through. But still they persist, and still they have to turn around when they eventually get there. And this, by the way, is whilst their tacho is registering how long they're driving for, and it's extending their shift and mucking up their shift pattern. The cars that we're getting on the roads are bigger. I read yesterday that the Elon Musk Cybertruck weighs 4 tons. 4 tons for a vehicle that ostensibly transports one person around in this massive pointy-cornered vehicle. Completely unnecessary. Farmers, my goodness, your vehicles are getting absolutely massive. And so everything's getting bigger, and it is having an impact on the roads. But thank you for your comments this afternoon. They are well received. We do need to do more. We continue to work hard, and as Councillor DeVille and others have said, we won't be complacent.
Moving on to item 16 on the leader statement, which is the Midlands North West Rail Link. Councillor Tom Loughborough-Rudd.
I was quite extraordinary when I saw this proposed in the news the other week. I thought, we've been talking about devolution a lot recently, and the idea that the Mayor of the West Midlands and the Mayor of Manchester can impose a train line on rural residents is quite extraordinary. In fact, the national press doesn't even write it rightly. They keep writing Lichfield, and it's actually Handsacre it starts at, which is always a good start. I totally support council's opposition to this. I don't see any... I was reading the report thinking there's got to be some benefits to this. But no, this is just an example of what happens when out-of-distance authorities overrule on areas that are not their control. And I think that if it benefited... there are problems in the West Coast Main Line, but they're not solved by by digging up half of Staffordshire. And we've already seen locally how HS2 does. They've turned street aid into Hotel California, which I can testify because I live right next door to the HS2 bridge. So I have absolutely no confidence in this, and I hope the government, which talks about being talks about the costly plans, doesn't add this proposal on, because that would be extraordinary.
Councillor Mark Winnington.
Thank you, Chairman. I must admit I was shocked when I first heard of this proposal, and I'm more shocked that it's actually got as far as it has. I was on Rail North and West Midlands Rail a good while back. Andy Burnham was quite rightly talking about transport and rail, and I can sympathise with that. However, who thought that someone would come along with defibrillators and try and rejuvenate HS2A? It's madness, complete madness. We're told that there's a supposed, unevidenced, I think, black hole of £20 billion with our present government, and Rachel Reeves is going to fix that, but without any tax rises. Think of that what you will. But this is going to cost somewhere in the region of £100 million on what the costings were previously. It's a lot of money on infrastructure. It's not even in their areas, some of it. I mean, we are, as we heard earlier, we haven't got a mayor for this reason, because they just make sort of weird political points, and this is one of them. If they want to spend the money on infrastructure, I would urge Richard Parker, who I've never actually sort of come across, to speak to the guys in South Staffs and the M54 M6 link, which would be a lot better way of spending the money and make the economy strong and moving quickly instead of yet another fairy tale from this government. Thank you.
Councillor Nigel Yates.
Yes, thank you. This is one of those rare occasions where a question to the Council and the Leader's statement actually overlap. So instead of asking a supplementary question, I'll make my comments in this. It's pretty clear that the Act of Parliament was not repealed. So whilst not actively live, certainly, you know, the provision of this additional rail link certainly isn't dead. I support the Leader's clarity, and I thank him for the clarity of his statement. And also the disappointment that no conversations have taken place with the consortium regarding this Midlands and North West rail link. But what I will do is bring to the fore one of the statements which is both in the response to the question and in the Leader's statement, the fact that it brings no benefit to the county. Now, if my sort of thoughts are on this, is that it doesn't come through Staffordshire Mall, and so we're a little bit aloof, but obviously it does affect the county and it does affect the potential for economic growth, certainly at the terminuses. And my thoughts on this is that if there's no benefit to the county, and it's something which is like in the planning stage and in the resurrection stage, you know, where it's got the defibrillator sort of set on it. If it does get traction, and like I say, I clarify that with the absolute unambiguous Leader's statement that you don't support it, and I'm, you know, agreeing with that. If it does get traction and it looks like we are losing the argument as a county, is the scope that it isn't the true HS2 high-speed link which was originally envisaged? Is the scope to actually include a benefit in the county? And potentially, again, it's very difficult nowadays to search the exact route, to see if there could be a station which actually complements the offer, perhaps with a park and ride, perhaps with, you know, economic development, perhaps with some kind of business hub or whatever, within the county to allow that additional stop on the way to the three major significant conurbations in our area, which is London, Birmingham and Manchester. And I'm not proposing that as an active action to go forward, but just to have something as a worm in the mind, that if the battle appears to be going in the direction of being lost, making sure that actually Staffordshire benefits from this unseemly gash through the county.
Councillor John Francis.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, this is a case of deja vu, isn't it? And as I said before, HS2 is anathema anyway to us. It was a flawed concept from 2004 when Gordon Brown put it forward. It's still a flawed concept. It's all about capacity in the long run, capacity of getting down to London and the bottlenecks at Wolverhampton and various other stations, Rugby and Co. Now, HS2 was going to cost originally £24 billion. Then it went up to about 70 billion. And it went up to about 94 billion. The last count was about 120 billion. So it can't be done. It just can't be done. We ain't got the money in the country. And Rachel Reeves is battling on about a 22 billion debt. Well, she's going to put another 90 billion debt in on top of that if this thing goes ahead. And it goes straight through my division and causes more damage than you'd like to think about. Especially with viaducts and cuttings, and especially the farmers that have had to give up quite a bit of land for this and are still waiting. Some people are still waiting for compensation. And we're talking about 10 years here. When did we actually put the policy forward, Mark? About 12 years ago, was it? No, it wasn't. Anyway, the point about it is that I can't see how two metropolitan mayors are going to raise the money to do this. That's number one. And number two is, if the concept was flawed from the start, which is HS2, they still need the land take to put 2 tracks in, whether they like it or not. So I'd like to see what the philosophy is through all of this and actually see where their rejections come from and their projections of doing the job come from, as well as from a monetary point of view. I mean, they've been doing it now on a critical path analysis from Euston down to Birmingham. It still isn't done. They haven't laid 1 kilometre of track yet. And the argument to stop outside of London instead of going into Euston was a nonsense. So I'd like to see all of that before we commit to this. But we've got a policy rejecting HS2 in the first place, and I think we'll still stick to that policy. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Members, we have 5 speakers left on this. I have to say everybody seems to be saying the same things. I'm not going to stop people speaking, but I'm going to just mention that we are all, at this stage, saying the same thing. Councillor Graham Cutton.
Thank you, Chairman. The original Leeds to London line, which is now called the West Coast Main Line, the most expensive part of that was in fact North Staffordshire due to the geology. Now, when HS2 was proposed, the original engineers suggested that HS2 should connect with West Coast Main Line in Staffordshire to avoid an incredibly expensive engineering requirement. This was ignored by HS2 because they had these fancy plans. Now, I was dealing with HS2 quite a lot, even went to Parliament to argue against some of the HS2 proposals, and was the only person in Staffordshire to get a positive result from HS2. But HS2 has still not explained, where I live in Newcastle Rural, they still have not explained how they're going to get 1,500 trucks going through Baldwin's Gate a day when the road's already at capacity 4 or 5 times a day. So it's bonkers. It's not feasible engineering-wise. I've spoken to many, many, many hauliers who haul soil and stuff like that, and they say it's not possible. So the Birmingham to Manchester link on HS2's grounds is ridiculously costly and unfeasible in terms of utilising our roads. And that will be disaster for Staffordshire, a total disaster. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Paul Northcote.
Thank you, Chairman. At the risk of reiterating what other speakers have said, I'll keep this brief. My division, Newcastle Rural, which Councillor Hutton is a part of, HS2 plans dissected my division right through. From Madeley to Wetmore, there was lots of expectations, there's been lots of disruptions, but importantly, the residents have had to live with this for 10 years. There's been many people that have, by waiting for compensation, have actually died, and that's into double figures in Whitmore Heath. What I implore the council to do, if they're entering into any sort of dialogue with the consortium, the Department of Transport on this issue, I'm not against that, I'm not against looking at the positives that can bring to Staffordshire, but I think we must make the point that the fact that we've been ignored so far, we've been ignored in those conversations, and to expect that we are taken into account of, I think is reasonable. And I think this is nothing but pie-in-the-sky economics. Personally, I don't think it's worthwhile. I think the disruption and the pain that we're going to have to feel from this, I suspect, will be a step too far. So I just wish to urge the council that we're transparent with residents, because I'm already receiving emails, Chair, on a regular basis because they've got wind of this proposal that two mayors have decided to talk about. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Members, I have two more speakers on this item. I'll take those two speakers and then we'll move to the leader, Alan White. Councillor Richard Cox.
I'll be brief, Chairman. I'm speechless. Thank you, Chairman.
Philip Atkins, Councillor, is there any chance of you being speechless?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. No, Chairman, this is serious. This isn't for laughter. This HS2 line does nothing for Staffordshire. We fought like mad to get the junction at Hampstead Ridway so that the line could have at least some effect on Stafford, and we've been acting on that. But what my worry is a committee that most of you don't know about, and that's called the Pension Committee, and the Pension Panel have been discussing at length, and I've probably been going to things for about 18 months, I should think. And Rachel Reeves has said that in the budget, which is coming at the end of this month, that borrowing can only be done for infrastructure, not for revenue. And the pension fund, and she actually said, that the local government pension scheme are not very good. Well, there's £7.5 billion in Staffordshire's. It was about £1.5 billion when I first became leader. It's now £7.5 billion. And we've been looking at all sorts of things, infrastructure. We've been looking at how we can invest in the Australian and Canadian pension funds. They invest into large projects. But that's how they are. The Ontario Teachers Pension Fund, and the Australians have one that they invest abroad. But I have to tell you, when you've been asked to invest in social housing, which does not give a return to the members of the pension fund, adequate to give them a decent pension in their later life. And I'm looking at quite a few offices in this room, and I'm speaking through the web to all those people who work for us. And I think there's about 40-something organisations that are members of the local government pension scheme. It is something that I am really concerned about, that the government could start telling us, because they can. They've done it before, to invest in infrastructure schemes that do not give an adequate return to guarantee a pension to the people who they've been putting their monies into it. Canteen workers at academies, highwaymen, people who work for Amy, social housing, catering companies, officers of the county council, the boroughs, the districts, the towns and the parishes. This government might raid their pensions at the end of this month. And that's what worries me. On top of paying for a line that does nothing for this county. That's all I've got to say, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Atkins, and thank you, Councillor Francis. Councillor Alan White.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Francis. We're concerned that the principle of no conversation about us without us has been completely ignored, and there's been conversation about us without us. Andy Burnham and Richard Parker deciding where national infrastructure might go without including the very people who are going to be affected by it. The principal concern at the moment is the damage it will do to Staffordshire. The second, as we did with HS2, is to say, OK, if government says it's going to happen, then what is the benefit to Staffordshire residents? I can foresee a situation alluded to by Councillor Atkins and also mentioned by Councillor Yates, that you will no longer be able to get on the train at Stoke or Stafford and go direct to London. So the question then is, how do Staffordshire residents engage with the economy that happens in London and Manchester? We catch a slow train, a clattery train to Milton Keynes, changed twice, including once at Watford Junction, and then perhaps into London Euston eventually, because people in Staffordshire will no longer be serviced by the West Coast Main Line. If the problem that they're trying to solve is one of capacity, and I think it always was one of capacity, then the solution might be an additional freight line to free up passenger capacity on the West Coast Main Line. Don't forget, HS2 has been designed in a way which is to take really, really fast trains. And really, really fast trains need to go in a straight line. Freight doesn't. So let's be more thoughtful about the solutions to capacity on our railways and not just think that the easy thing to do is pick up, get the old resuscitator out, give it a bit of resuscitation and go again with an old plan which was for an old system. Mr. Chairman, we will be demanding of the two mayors a hearing, and we will be demanding the information that they have that's drawn them to this conclusion that this is the right thing to do. But I just also want to be clear about the fact that Staffordshire has never been NIMBY about national infrastructure. We have taken more than our fair share of national infrastructure, and we contribute more than our fair share towards national infrastructure. For those of you in the south of the county, Councillor Eaglan, Councillor Jessel, minerals extraction in the south of the county accounts for 60% of the West Midlands requirements for growth. We took in Councillor Thomas Loughborough-Rudd's division and Councillor Wilcox's division the M6 toll, which allows people to get across the south of the county and across the Midlands. We've been part of the West Coast Main Line 4 tracking project. Councillor Oates, Councillor Cox, severely affected in their divisions as a result of that. And I could go on with the examples where Staffordshire has taken national infrastructure and does its part on the national stage to contribute to the effort of this country. But we will not have people talking about us without us, and also we need to understand how it will benefit the residents of this county. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Item 17 on the leader statement, which is investing in our countryside. I currently have no speakers. Councillor Wilson, do you want to come in? Councillor Wilson, there are now a couple of speakers. Come on. Members, when I say I have no speakers, that's generally the end of it unless you have a desire to speak. There are two or three. In this case, I'm going to call you. Councillor Loughborough. Apologies.
Wilcox was going to comment because, of course, Chasewater is on here, and, of course, Chasewater is in Burton South. But I thought I'd have to comment on it because there's been a lot of flack in the local media in Lichfield about county council's consultations with Chasewater, which I find a bit dismarring, actually, because we're investing into an area which, in my opinion, is one of our prime assets. It talks about turning Chaseport into a regional asset here, and I agree. It's right on the border of Walsall, Cannock, Burntwood itself, Hammerwich, Lichfield, and I think we should be a bit more positive. And I'm kind of I was dismayed to see the Leader of the Opposition at Lichfield District Council, my predecessor, being quite dismissive about this. We can do work on Chaseport, but I do agree that we need to stop, once we've got these conversations on, we need to be getting on with it, because that's what we've been to do. I think this is an asset we can use, and I welcome this statement.
Thank you. I have one speaker then before I bring the Cabinet member in. Councillor John Francis.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to know what our policy is, or if we've written one, or what we're going to do about solar farms in our county. Because solar farms are taking up agricultural land, and some of it prime agricultural land. I've got 4 applications in my division. One's already gone through, 3 more are pending. And we're going to cover the agricultural land with black plastic panels made in China. And solar panels are not the answer. It's SMR, small modular reactors, to do it, or windmills. Now, I'd like to know that if we're going to do a policy on this, what our views are from an agricultural...
Councillor Francis, this is not really this item, is it? We're not on this item unless I'm missing something.
So I'd like to know what's going on with
Councillor Francis, you're not listening to me. We're not on this item. Perhaps if you can bring it up as a question, that's fine. Well, no, in that case, Councillor Francis, there's a system of which you just put a question in, as 6 people have done today, and then you get the question, you get your supplementary. I think I'm a very lenient chairman, but there's nothing on this that would indicate that, Councillor Francis. Councillor Victoria Wilson.
Thank you very much, Chairman. If we all cast our minds back to the COVID pandemic and remembering how important it was for residents of this county to get outside, spend that hour in the countryside, improving their mental health and also their physical health, it tells us how important our countryside assets are to the people of Staffordshire. And then remembering that we have some very, very rare species in our countryside estate. We've got the white-tailed crayfish for one, and there are a number of reptiles and other species that are protected within our countryside space. So I'm absolutely delighted that we are able to invest £18 million over the next few years in our countryside asset. £1 million of that is to go on the Staffordshire Way, which is, some would say, a 92-mile route from the north of the county down to the south. I would argue it's 96, but I may have gone around a couple of fields, a couple of times too many. And then on top of that, we've got Chasewater, which is where the South Bank is. We've got lots of businesses there. We've got lots of people that use that space. They go out there with their families and they have fun events and picnics and so on. And then we've got Marquis Drive, which is at Cannock Chase. We have a visitor centre there, but it is in dire need of some upgrading. So we're trying to balance the protection of our really rare species here in Staffordshire with the involvement of local people coming in and treating this as a regional destination. So I'm absolutely thrilled that this project, which is something I've been working on for quite some time now, is finally going to be started, and I look forward to advising people of our progress as we go forward. This is a really great news story for Staffordshire, and the only reason we're able to do this is because Staffordshire County Council has been a really prudent and sensible council, and we are therefore able to invest this amount of money. It's £1 million for the Staffordshire Way, it's £7 million for Chasewater, and £10 million for Cannock Chase over the next few years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Moving on to item 18 on the Leader Statement, which is the Staffordshire Warmer Homes Scheme. Councillor Gillian Pardesi.
Thank you, Chair. Just for reassurance that when we carry out the work on the cavity wall insulation, Chair, that we are mindful, have been mindful, and will continue being mindful of the hundreds of horror stories up and down the country where residents have been left with permanent issues with damp and mould, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pardace. You have no further speakers. Councillor Paul Northcote, do you want to come in on this one?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Councillor Pardace, for your comments. Staffordshire Warmer Home Schemes. If I was you, Mr. Chairman, I'd look at the question from today's meeting from the Chair of the Health and Care Overview and Scrutiny Committee relating to the removal of the winter fuel allowance and link the two elements together by saying that some of our most vulnerable could benefit at any age, especially those experiencing rural fuel poverty and rising bills. Following the 10% increase in energy that we've seen recently, is to look at the Warmer Home Scheme as well as fixing leaky and thermally inefficient properties so they that they use less energy to heat them and lose the benefits of the heat generated. It's a great way of saving money and the planet, and equally having a permanently cold home can lead to all sorts of chronic health issues, such as breathing issues that we're well aware of. Thank you for that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Alan White.
I wanted to briefly address your point, Councillor Pardace. I have read of this, and I am aware that in certain circumstances this is taking place. So we'll look into it and make sure that those people whose homes are insulated aren't affected by this.
Thank you, Councillor White. Thank you, Councillor Pardace, for that question. Moving on to the final item on today's leader statement, which is a summary of new skills and experience for the county, for our county's children. I don't have any speakers, so I'm going to go straight to the Cabinet Member, Councillor Mark Sutton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I mentioned earlier, ensuring that children in this county get a great start in life and able to fulfil their ambition and their potential is an absolute essential thing and an integral part of what we try to do day in and day out by working with our partners. Be that in family hubs, be that with early childcare, be that with education, the early help that we deliver, and with a holiday activity and food programme that we provide with many providers across the county. I was lucky enough to go and visit a number of holiday activity and food programmes across the county during the summer and saw the wonderful and excellent work that was going on there. Children benefiting from that, improving their well-being and getting a good, nutritious meal. Also during the summer, we started to see people taking in the additional childcare that is being offered as we go through this next school year. And by September of 2025, working parents of children from 9 months up until 4 years of age will be entitled to funded childcare. And when many parents tell us that childcare and the expense of it is a barrier to them getting back into the workforce, I think that's of great benefit. So let us hope that going forward, the government continue with both these schemes and neither of them go the same way as the winter fuel allowance.
Thank you. And that ends the leader statement. So I move that the report be received. Is that agreed? Moving back to the main agenda, item 6, which is the Director of Public Health Annual Report. Councillor Cox, will you move consideration of the report, please?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I move the report from the Director of Public Health, Dr. Richard Harling, his annual report that's titled As Time Goes By, Ageing in Staffordshire. So I do move that it's for consideration for this council. It went through the overview and scrutiny process, which I believe we did give a good, thorough investigation, and I'm more than happy to bring this to now council for deliberation. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. Councillor Charlotte Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This annual report draws attention to the challenge of the nursing vacancy rate. Now, we're already facing that problem in Leek, where our minor injuries unit has only been allocated one shift of nurses, and that's since COVID. And that means that effectively the minor injuries unit closes at 4:30 rather than being 8 till 8 as it was previously. And now the Integrated Care Board is using that as an excuse, those opening hours, as an excuse potentially to close the minor injuries unit. And that's ridiculous when you have an area of the moorlands covering 222 square miles, an older than average population, an ambulance service which doesn't serve our population well, and virtually no public transport. In fact, we've issued a challenge to members of the ICB to travel with a wheelchair user from the moorlands to Stoke-on-Trent, to an urgent treatment centre there, and back again on public transport. So rather than jumping into a car and doing that journey, just to see how difficult that will be, particularly with a wheelchair user, to use public transport. And that's why it's vital that we keep our minor injuries unit or something equivalent to an urgent treatment centre, because people in the moorlands, without their own personal transport, will really struggle, and that will impact on public health. Thank you.
Councillor Johnny McMahon.
This makes sober reading, and quite rightly so. Dr. Harling writes that between 2001 and 2041, the number of those over the age of 65 will almost double. He writes that the projected survival rates, that people will live a little bit longer, not much, but a little. But he also, quite rightly, of the view that the way the projections are going is that people will have less healthy life. So there will be longer that we'll spend in ill health. Longer where we can't be productive, where we can't contribute, where we're a drain on resources. It's aggravated by the fact that only 85, we don't have the right demographics, that there aren't the youngsters coming in, that only 85% of people of employable age by 2041 will actually be engaged in gainful employment. And much of that is to do with ill health. Baroness Camilla Cavendish, who was in Cameron's cabinet office, quite rightly said that unless we tackle the ill health of those who are of working age, we will not deal with the productivity dilemma in our country. So there's really serious issues here. Out of that 85% by 2041, he writes that over 14% of those will actually be employed in health and care. He gives us two buckets, if you like, for solutions. One is he describes as healthy aging. I would prefer to describe it as healthy living. And the second is healthcare improvement and reform. He's quite right about the latter. There's a rather well-known and I think rather controversial vascular surgeon in America who goes by the grand name of Caldwell B. Effelstein Jr., who says that the hospitals in America are cathedrals of sickness with no public health agenda whatsoever. And I think we can land that criticism of at the door of our UK hospitals as well. So what about healthy living? Because that public health message is where I think over the next few years we're going to reap the most benefit for the least cost and give people a much better quality of life. Now, I don't know about you, but if I speak to the average punter in Cannock, they think two things which current scientific opinion disagrees with. The first is, it's all in the genes, there's nothing we can do about it. The second is, even if we want to do something about it, where there's a chance that we might improve our lot, It's deferred gratification. It's living a life that's not great for the sake of our health in the hope that we might live healthier for longer. It's clear from recent scientific studies that both of these issues are wrong. Now, clearly we can't do anything about our genes. Clearly we can't do anything about the environment that we live in that we don't have any control over. But we do have a lot that we can do about ourselves and what we do about our lives. And we all know what these things are. The first is to move more. Oh my God, am I running out of time already? Right. Move, eat better, engage with our local communities, quality of sleep, and reducing stress. Now, we now know that this is not deferred gratification. We now know that for each of these things, both the energy that we have and our mood improves dramatically in a matter of weeks. So this is no longer John Calvin at his most austere. We can actually give a positive message and change the current culture in a way that will, I believe, could have a significant improvement in public health and therefore on the disease burden. And that applies not just to us, but also we have to put feet to the fire for our NHS colleagues so we no longer have citadels of sickness. Thank you.
I have to say, perfect timing, Councillor Bond. Perfect timing. I have a number of speakers on this, and I would prefer not to go into the afternoon session, but also you are aware that democracy is really important, so I'm not going to not everybody have the say, but if you're saying the same thing, just bear that in mind. Councillor Julia Jessel.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I have to say, Councillor, well, time flies even quicker when you get older, so you know how the rest of us feel. I couldn't not pass over the opportunity to speak about this report because in Dr. Harling's inimitable fashion, it doesn't pull any punches, it's fairly hard-hitting, but my goodness, it speaks the truth. That in 4041, there's neither going to be the financial or human resources to carry on with the system that we've got. And I'm a great believer in personal responsibility. Now, on page 9, and I'm going to be very quick because time flies, I'm going to read out paragraph 3. We instead need a model of care that is proactive and compassionate. Very few of us want to end our days in hospital or a care home. We need doctors, nurses, and social workers to help us explore our options and articulate our wishes as we get older, to anticipate and avoid problems, and to understand that there comes a point when quality of life is more important than quantity of life. This would offer greater dignity for people in their final years and be less resource intensive. I agree with that, but there is one big omission. It's not just nurses, doctors, social workers. It's our loved ones and our very close friends who have a responsibility with us to discuss what our wishes would be. And I think as a local authority, we have to accept our limitations, but also accept our opportunities. And I think we need to ensure that there is a public discussion where actually we talk about something that is inevitable for all of us. We are all going to die. I'm sure many of us would like to have some control over how we die. There are opportunities from enduring powers of attorney to living wills to actually talking about it to our close family, close friends, so that actually when our health eventually starts to fail, and, we all hope we stay active for as long as we can, that actually people know what it is that we would wish. And I'm sure most of us would rather die in dignity. I have friends who are in care homes, who are very well looked after, but I have to say, we wouldn't do it to an animal. And it saddens me that as a society, we've got the medical knowledge and the science to keep us alive, but we haven't got the ethical maturity to know how we can die with dignity. So I think this report should start a conversation. Thank you.
Councillor Derry Cookfield.
Can I just say, Mr. Chairman, this is a very, very, very interesting one, especially when you get somebody like me that's old and had the day. And when you turn round and say, time goes by, can I just say, time has gone by for me, basically. When I come look at it, looking back over the years, right, and we look at my mother's, my father, right, and my brothers, they were older than me, and what they had to go through then. Poverty. When I say poverty, I mean poverty. If you had a crust of bread with a bit of jam on that was taken on and off, the same as the butter, that's if you were lucky you could get it, right? Times were bad, and if you lived till you were 60, you were classed as an old fogey. Not like today. When you come to look at it, right, and look at how it comes now and what it's like now, right, and the reason they call it Great Britain, because years ago, the mothers and fathers, right, fought for this country to make it great. People that stopped at home and the women worked on the land, right, to make it great. And that's what happened. And these people, there's a lot of these people still alive today, their sons and their daughters. Because what gets me is, right, that it's got better. And the reason why it's got better is because we've had councils, we've had the government all working together, right, or supposed to be, right, for these sort of people. They've given their time, they've paid their national insurance if they were working, right? They've worked for this country all their lives, and then basically, right, they give me chucked on the scrappy. Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. And when I look at the government as it stands at this moment in time, right, because no government is perfect, I don't have a go at any councillor, right, in opposition on this, but when you come to look at it and they start picking on the pensioners, how low can you get? Diabolical.
Councillor Hookfield, it's nice, and I'm not disagreeing with what you said, but we seem to have left the report behind a little bit. Can you just sum up or come back to the report? We have drifted away from what we were originally talking about.
Yeah, but at the point I'm making, Chair, let me carry on. The point I'm going to make is this, right, that people are at home, they either got a choice for the food or have the eating on. We just been before this one, we were talking about warmer homes, right? People can only stop in one room, wrap blankets around them to keep warm. And you talk about people's health, and as they get older, and it's been stated, as they get older, right, people are more liable to have sicknesses and diseases, and there's no getting away from that.
I'll take that as your summary, Councillor Cookfield. Thank you very much. I'm moving on. Councillor Jill Hood.
I think this is an absolutely fantastic report.
And
Thank
when
you.
you're ready, Councillor.
Thank you, Dr. Harling. I talk often about my young daughters, and the youngest one has no idea about what I do. She doesn't know what counsellors are, and she said to me very suddenly the other day, which took me by surprise, "Hey, Mum, have you seen this? In China, it's an offence not to look after your older people." And I thought, oh, my God. So I said to her, well, yes, I do know about that. And she said, do you think your council will ever bring that in, not understanding that we wouldn't have the power to do that? And I said, well, I'd vote against it if we did. So there we go. I wouldn't want her looking after me. The point I'm making is that as chairman of Age Concern, I volunteer with many, many really elderly people, many of them in their 90s. And when I take them to hospital appointments or doctor's appointments, the question is always asked, can you get back? And I spoke in a meeting with Dr. Harling about this. And one of the ladies' replies always is, I'm housebound. Now, recently, the reply from pharmacists, doctors, hospitals, health workers is, no, you're not housebound, you're transport bound. So Age Concern does a service to take patients to the hospital, and it's £10.40 return. If our people at Age Concern go to a doctor's, we won't take them locally, only to hospitals far away. They have to pay for a taxi, which is £12 there and £12 back. It's a lot of money. They're all struggling financially, and that's what the burden on everyone is at the moment, that their families don't seem to be wanting to be involved to give them the care that they so deserve. So it's left to organisations like Age Concern. But a paragraph, the bottom paragraph on page 9, written by Dr. Harling, that says our staff need to develop the skills they'll need to take advantage of new technologies. Our care workers, to me, are some of the most skilled people that I see working with elderly people. Over the years, they've developed skills which really they shouldn't be using. They probably haven't got training. I've seen one change a catheter, which I was absolutely amazed about, which I presume should be done by a health worker. But that's what we've got to think about, our care workers who are going into homes, giving care, and our care workers in hospitals. Their pay is abysmal. We have to start to value our care workers as highly as they should be valued. And I totally agree with Councillor McMahon that we have to keep moving. And my advice to anyone is, if you can hold a dog, buy a dog and walk. And Councillor Wilson has talked about we should all be getting out there. Many of our elderly people can't get out there. We should be finding a way in the future, as Dr. Harley is saying, to help them get out to enjoy nature, fresh air. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Gillian Pardacey.
Thank you, Chair. Dr. Harling quite rightly points out that a focus needs to be on preventative health care. And one thing we've learnt and must not repeat again is that years of misplaced austerity drives by the previous government show that continual cuts to services only accumulate problems for the future.
Just give me a second, Councillor Pardacey. If you just take a seat, just a second, Councillor Pardacey. Members, I appreciate that this, and I appreciate what you're saying. Also, we give each other a level of dignity. Please allow Councillor Pardacey to speak. When you're ready, Councillor Pardacey.
Thank you, Chair. Dr. Harling also makes it clear that we need to start in childhood. Sure Start Children's Centres, introduced in 1999, identified early health needs, early intervention and preventative health care in young children. Cuts to budgets have led to the closure of hundreds of Sure Start centres in the UK. We're now dealing with children starting school in nappies and children already obese from lack of exercise and poor diet. Prevention or treating illnesses in the future, the choice is ours, Chair. Thank you.
Councillor Bernard-Peters.
I would just like to speak as a type 1 diabetic, build on the points that Johnny has made. 7% of the community are on the verge or do have type 2 diabetes, which is derived mainly from obesity and a lack of exercise. Now, this is Joe Public sitting at home wondering what would happen if I got diabetes. Well, I'd suggest that you look at the side effects of diabetes if you don't get an intervention, because it's an incredibly paralyzing, terrible affliction to get, the complications of type 2 diabetes. So please, everyone, think about the impact on your health of no exercise and ignoring medical advice. I know from the Burton's Diabetes Support Group that the main policy from Diabetes UK is let's educate and inform. But what I know is we educate and inform, but no one's listening. It will never happen to me. But be aware, if you're a little overweight, carrying an excessive weight, and have a bit of a history in your family, you need to get on to the game. It's a real challenge. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Paul Northcote.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Once again, it'd be remiss of me as the Cabinet Support Member for Public Health not to have a word here. I think Councillor Pardesi, I'll try and keep my speech apolitical, and I think the subject of this is we're talking about ageing population, we're not talking about early life. And I thank Dr. Richard Harling for this report, because rather than looking at the demographics in detail of being prescriptive of where we go with this, it looks at the potential impact on the ageing population, that particularly Staffordshire, and the resources that are going to be required possibly in the future to deal with this. And I think it will be one of the outcomes that will be useful to take into effect, that the good news is that there's still time to do something about this. This report is, and I borrowed Dr. Harling's silver thread analogy here, it's about having those conversations with all aspects that interfere with ageing and delivery of care, to look at the ways that we prioritise and rethink the way that we deliver care now. There's much work that can be done there. And to go to Councillor McMahon's point, that the focus is on prevention to increase a healthy life. Regular exercise has been mentioned, a good diet, staying well connected using the internet, and also other members of the family and community. To look at long life learning and to prepare for later life, having those difficult conversations, I think, is also part that councillors have referred to this morning. We need to look at business. The public sector has a critical role here in shaping and focusing our access to services. We can be that influence. We need to have individuals and organisations in Staffordshire that are committed to the delivery and the efficiency of delivering care in our county. There's much that we can do collectively to improve health and well-being and to promote healthy ageing. We need to make sure that the public sectors should make prevention initiatives at the top of their priority and have the commitment and resources they feel. The organisation in Staffordshire should embrace the potential of technology to prevent ageing, but not healthily. We look at the wider outcomes here, and through particularly the double hatters that we have amongst us today, that we can have those conversations at district. It's already going on in terms of like local plans, particularly Newcastle under Lyme and Cannock, etc. Those conversations are already talking about how can we improve on the wider issue. But I guess councillors with a double hat responsibility can circulate this report far and wide to those that may have an interest in this. And I'm urging councillors to do this, actually. Because any contacts that people have at a local level, for example, parish councils, GP practices, etc., the ageing population is not just a matter for the county council to control and fix. Instead, we all have a role to play in preparing for old age and facilitating for what's ahead of us. And I think this report underlines that need to have that conversation, and it's time to get real, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cox, do you wish to respond?
I think it's important that the council accepts the recommendations and we move forward. So that's the only comment that I would
Thank you.
take.
So based on that, I move that the report be received. Is that agreed? Agreed. Moving on to item 7, which is reports of the Chairman of the Staffordshire Police, Fire and Crime Panel, Councillor Peters. Will you move consideration of the report, please?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Jill Hood.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to ask Mr Peters if he can help out some of our Stone residents who have suddenly been denied access to the Stone Community Fire Station. I'd like to know, how does the plan to stop the use of the community room satisfy the requirements within the PFI contract to provide community facilities? In 2015, it was announced that there was £45 million worth of PFI funding, and Stone would benefit from that to build a brand new fire station, which it did. And now suddenly, through a planning application, the word community has been taken out of the huge words on the front, and it now says Stone Police and Fire Station. So there's a lot of members of the U3A who are bitterly disappointed. We have over 900 members in Stone, and I'd like to know what the Commissioner has actually done to accommodate those that have been displaced. And you may be wondering why I'm asking you this. It's because I've sent in 2 Freedom of Information requests and still not heard anything. And that began about 12 weeks ago. So I really would be grateful if you could take my request to the Commissioner and find out for me. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Gillian Pardesi.
Chair. Page 46, Chair, there's a paragraph on whistleblowing, and whistleblowing can often take a lot of courage to do, and people's lives have been devastated as a consequence of taking on that role of whistleblowing. So this recommendation that the employment of independent advice when ascertaining the motivation and potential interest between whistleblowing claims, I'd like some reassurance, Chair, that that isn't another way of discouraging whistleblowing. Thank you.
I'll turn my mic on. Councillor Peters, do you wish to respond to the debate?
Thank you, Chairman. More than happy to take Councillor Hood's comments forward, and I certainly will. Councillor Pardesi, I need to get back to her on that. It's caught me on the back foot, that has, but I'll certainly get something to you.
Thank you, Councillor Peters. I move that the report be received. Is that agreed? Item 8, which is questions under Standing Order B. Members, the 6 questions and answers that have been circulated to members and published on our website. In accordance with the usual procedure, the questions and answers will be taken as read. I will allow each questioner a maximum of 5 minutes who wish to ask a supplementary question, that's in total, and to receive an answer. I will remind members again and again that no debate is allowed. The first question, Councillor Yates to Councillor DeVille. Councillor Yates, do you have a supplementary question?
No, thank you. That was adequately covered in the debate.
Question 2, Councillor Charlotte Atkins to Councillor Alan White. Do you have a supplementary?
No, covered earlier.
Councillor Pardesi to Councillor Wilson. Do you have a supplementary?
Yes, Chair.
When you're ready, Councillor Pardesi.
Thank you, Chair. Irrespective of how many wonderful volunteers we have within our libraries, how can the Cabinet member possibly justify to our residents that they're receiving a library service they deserve when their 43 libraries have been left with only 16 qualified librarians? Thank you, Chair.
I think there was a question there, Councillor Wilson.
It's not just a library service, you know that, don't you? That those people who we've trained, who are volunteers often, if they're not paid staff, they get a massive amount of training and they get a massive amount of satisfaction from being able to help the general public. I don't think we're failing the public at all. I think we're offering them a gold-plated service. As I've said before, we are the trailblazer in this country. We have other authorities coming to us asking us for our advice, for advice on how they can do the same thing. We've had accolades all over the show for this service, and I'm not prepared to accept that we are not offering our residents anything other than a fantastic service. It's not just about library book lending, it's about public groups meeting, elderly people, young people with children who want to meet with other people in the community. It's an absolutely fantastic service, and I will not hear any differently.
Question 4, Councillor Cox to Councillor Pert. No supplementary. Question 5, Councillor Afsar to Councillor Pert. No supplementary. And the final question, Councillor Hussain to Councillor Tagg. Do you have a supplementary? Oh, he does have a supplementary.
Thank you. I'll be very short. Yeah. Can I just ask the Cabinet member, first of all, I thank him for his response. Means tested people, residents who are only eligible for it. Unfortunately, many residents are fall out from these means tested things, and you know that nationally what's going on. For a few £100, people got out from, they don't get their pension credit. That's why they're getting out from this winter fuel allowance and things. So is there any mechanism we can think about? We can also bring back our residents, elderly residents, especially the pensioners, who can have this opportunity to get this warm home grants. It is a good scheme, and if we can bring them back, it will make a huge positive difference to their lives as well. Thank you.
Councillor Tagg.
Supplementary. I think obviously the criteria for the Warm Homes programme is set, obviously not by ourselves, but by obviously with the government funding. I think if there's a next round of Staffordshire Warmer Homes that we can put out there, I think obviously the criteria can be looked at if the government will do that for us and give us perhaps some more money as well.
Thank you. Moving on to item 9, petitions. Jeremy Pert, I believe, has given Ian Parry a petition to present on his behalf.
I have, Chair. I present this petition on behalf of the residents and people who live in the vicinity of Tittenser. I have a petition of 824 residents. They wish the Council to know that Tittenser is a vibrant village, bisected by the fast-paced A34. The road, while important for transportation, poses a significant danger to pedestrians due to the lack of a safe crossing facility. Everyday adults and children take the risk of crossing this road, and so the undersigned in this petition are calling upon Staffordshire County Council to take a decisive action on the implementation of a pedestrian crossing over the A34 at Tittenser. Thank you, Chair.
Absolutely. I believe a petition from Richard Cox.
My constituent hasn't given me the hard copy, so I'm still waiting, but I suspect in December I will be petitioning.
Brilliant. We look forward to that petition in December. Item 10, which is the final item on the agenda, which is exclusions for the public. We have no exclusions to the public. Thank you, members, for a great meeting, and please enjoy all your lunch. Thank you.